Welcome back to the Orbital Drop PodCast. I'm your host, Corporal Hot Pockets, and with us we got the boys. Feel free to introduce yourselves.
No.
Okay.
Hello, I am the eternal cancer patient, dying of cringe, being killed by our fellow cast members, and the resident dumbass, Jiff.
GIF.
I am not Yif. I do not subscribe to that furry bullshit.
I said GIF with a G, you mongrel.
It's
Okay.
pronounced GIF, not GIF.
It is pronounced GIF, and sorry, you called that last time, and I'm still upset about that. Mostly because I have not met my monthly killing quota, killing furries quota.
Whatever you say, graphics interchange fellow.
All right. Zoru?
Local fucking skinwalker here, I guess. Hi everyone. That's going to be my intro. Let's get into the shit. I'm eating.
You're also our professional horse masturbator. All right.
Man, you do
I don't want to know that story. Let's move on.
We'll cut that in
Hello,
post.
everybody. It is your boy Gio here, cosplaying as everybody's favorite weaponized racists, Spartan 3s. Let's go.
Gio,
Yeah.
Plug your channel.
What?
Plug your channel. You've been on my
Oh,
podcast
right,
3
yeah.
times and you haven't mentioned your channel.
Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Trooper Geo. I make Lego animations on there sometimes,
They're actually
occasionally.
really good. They're actually really good. All right.
Yeah, they're cool.
All right, gents, and today's topic is a big one. Hopefully this one's going to be not as out of control as the last two, but our topic is, what if one of the Primarchs, when scattered by the dark ruinous powers, one of the Primarchs' gestation capsules somehow traveled through time, space, and reality and landed somewhere in the UNSC shortly before the start of the Human Covenant
Are you
War?
recording?
Insert the Deadpool 2
No,
intro here.
hold on. I think last time he forgot to start the recording. Are you recording?
I am recording. I am definitely recording. Yeah.
Okay.
One of the Primarchs traveling through time, space, and reality lands somewhere in UNSC-controlled space shortly before the Human and Covenant War, and gets raised by the UNSC and helps them fight the Covenant. We're going to talk about which Primarch would be best for the UNSC, what different skills and strengths each of the Primarchs would have. Essentially, yeah, like it's going to be a Primarch, but which one would be the best one for the UNSC? And to start off, what do you guys think are
Can I give my 2 cents first?
Pardon?
Should I give my 2 cents first?
Yeah, of course.
I think I'm going to have a lot of 2 cents for this episode.
That's good.
Because my general mindset is that, like, one, it depends on the time period, because depending on how long ago the Primarch arrives, then we're not going to get the UNSC at all, but depending on, like, if it's also too soon, there isn't a single Primarch that I think can really do anything.
I'm going to give
Also, may I add something?
Yep.
Shoot.
Just because a Primarch lands in the UNSC doesn't mean the Primarch is going to be how they are in 40k. The Primarch if the Primarch lands in UNSC space, he's pretty much just going to be assimilated into like how the UNSC think. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So,
but also
I mean, it's like Conrad and Angron were definitely products of their planets, but you know they also had more natural tendencies that I think would still come through.
There's that, but they also the worlds that they land on, but the Primarchs also are elements of the Emperor, so you have certain features that definitely wouldn't go away. Like Dorn's
right, like Sanguinius being a fucking psyker and shit like that, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And him having like angel wings and shit.
Right.
Well, that is the next question I wanted to ask. So as I said beforehand, before we started this, I was originally under the impression that these would be adult Primarchs coming to the UNSC, as the original prompt said, either just before or around the time of harvest, the initial contact with the Covenant around harvest. Now, whether or not they would land in harvest or land on another planet, another world, would be up for debate. The other question that at the time was going to be, are these going to be adult Primarchs before or after the Emperor? Now that we have a gestation pod,
right,
we need to put 1 or 2 ground rules.
All right.
Do they still have a connection / the ability to use psychic powers if they were a psyker? Even the passive ones.
Right.
I personally want to say yes, and then like I'm just going to completely overhaul it and be like the warp, like demons aren't going to be involved. Like I don't want to include any of that shit because that would be a fucking headache.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll say this. If it's like, I mean, Magnus isn't really much without his powers, so
I mean, he's still a lot without his powers, but it's like he's a like God, even with the warp, it's not going to help out too much. It just makes them individual powerhouses.
Yeah, I'm
And
just
that's
gonna
about it.
say they can have their gifts. Problem is, no one else understands or knows it. So, like Magnus, for example, benefited tremendously by landing on a psyker world, basically, so that he gained so much knowledge, which turned into power. Because as we all know, knowledge is power. Um, so even if he may have had psyker powers in the UNSC, if nobody else knows how to, knows, all the arcane rituals, all the sorcery, all the knowledge behind that, he's going to be strong, but he's not going to, he's probably not going to be able to, like, do all the crazy stuff he does. So I'm okay with giving them psychic powers, but definitely no demons, definitely no dark gods or anything like that. Another factor. So this way I see it. Gestation capsule lands. I'm going to say probably definitively have it land on Reach specifically. And I'm going to say it lands either 2490 or some other, like, give him a couple of decades before the Human Covenant War starts. A decade
Old
or two.
old enough to be an adult when Harvard
Exactly. Yeah, and same deal. It's like kid lands, probably gets adopted by some locals, and then all of a sudden the kid grows into a 10-foot tall monster where you physically
They're
feel like
immediately where they're
Oni would
immediately
like
destroyed by Oni.
exactly. And I think Oni would pretty quickly recognize this is an incredibly valuable person, and again they would take take the kid in, and that's the thing is we have to talk about that. Like I hope that Oni would recognize the value of this and try to train him, but at the same
Would they
time,
become the next? Would they become the Sarah Osmond before Sarah Osmond, or would
Right.
they become
I
an
think Oni
experiment?
would probably take them apart if they could.
I'm agreeing in that sense. I have a
Right.
feeling that they would probably be dissected. The question is, we all know that to an extent, many of them have an accelerated healing process and are exceedingly hardy. So trying to kill them, even by Oni standards, wouldn't be good, and Oni would actually be more interested by the fact that they are exceedingly large, healthy, and able to heal themselves.
Right.
Flash, no.
In the case of
Here's what-
Fulgrim, he would be a straight experiment because his healing powers are straight up Wolverine like.
Who?
I mean, in like quotations, the Primarchs are pretty easy to kill. Like they'll still die. Most all of them will still die if you cut their head off. Like
Mhm.
they're not
yeah.
Deadpool.
Right. That's
Well-
true. That's true. But it's like it's very difficult to get to that point. And the way
Not really. Well, yeah, assuming they're fighting you.
right.
Here's what I'd see. Like if Oni got their hands on a Primarch, they'd learn how to Flash clone that Primarch, and then they'd make an army of fucking Flash clones, like of the Primarch.
Well,
I
the
don't
problem
think
with
that'd
that
be
is
very
even
doable.
in universe, flash cones don't work. Only flash cloning limbs or organs works.
No, flash
because
clones
they're able to get
work.
it back to.
The
Get it
thing
back.
is, like, the thing is with flash cloning, it's a speed thing. Like, if they want to take the time,
Right.
they absolutely can make a clone of a person. That just takes, a lot of time.
Right. And they had a bunch of laws preventing that because they were afraid that, companies would make like clone workforces
Yeah, but
and
like
stuff.
it's Oni. They
Ethical
don't care
concerns,
about
blah, blah, blah,
laws.
blah, blah,
You're right,
blah.
you're right.
God, what spread capitalism anymore?
Right.
It's already
Now,
exposed.
I think they could try to make a clone army of Primarchs, and Primarch clones are very intimidating. They don't have the Primarch soul, but they are still pretty powerful compared to mortals. It took freaking Abaddon in order to be able to
Kill Horus's clone.
exactly.
At least one of them. There was another Horus clone that even Bile himself was like, "Fuck this."
Right.
Offed.
And
It
yeah,
still took Bile absolute ages to make them. I don't think the UNSC is going to be able to clone a Primarch
honestly,
anytime
yeah.
soon.
That's the thing is, so
Like,
when
God no, not
when
anytime soon.
Horus was sick, when he was injured by the blade on that planet with the governor, whatever frick it was called in the first Horus book.
God, now you're gonna make me look it up because
It's
been months since I've read it.
when he was
Dathomir or Dothamir?
Dathomir. When he was injured by the Anathane, by Governor, I forgot the name of it. Either way, he was sick and dying, and they brought him to his own apothecaries, Space Marine doctors, and they had no idea what to do with him. His body was that advanced. So honestly, I think what happens. Davin. Okay.
I was saying Dathomir because Star Wars came to the brain. Dathomir.
Honestly,
Sorry for that.
I think if the Primarch is raised on Reach by like a loyal family, I think he may willingly go with the UNSC, and they'll probably see that this is like an incredibly powerful figure. They may try to do like lots of medical scans and stuff, but I don't think they'll go quite to the dissecting frog point. And I think they'll try to recruit him and try to basically see how high he'll rise, but they'll try to keep him secret and stuff. And
So here's one of those questions. We know which Primarchs are most likely either minorly or heavily influenced by their environment.
Yep.
And by possibility of either a lack of parents or by good parents.
Mm-hmm.
The three
When they were
first
all absolutely influenced by that.
Oh yeah, but I meant like the three. The question is whether or not one, they have a good mother figure or not. Whether they get thrown into the Spartan program of all things, since we're putting this around 49. Whether or not other things involve. We know for a fact that there are 3 Primarchs that were heavily influenced by female figures or a lack thereof one, with 2 of them being Corvus and Gilliman, who were both influenced by a mother figure, and then Cruz, who almost had one, but unfortunately she was killed. And, well, I shouldn't say she was killed. There was a moment, I think, in one of the in the Conrad Cruz book where he ended up having, when he was still very, very young, had a interaction with a woman who was at the point where she could have taken care of him or betrayed him, and he didn't want to take the risk, so he ended up shanking her or running away from her.
Right.
But it was implied that she could have been the mother figure to him that the same type of figure was to Corvus.
Right. Right.
Which is the only reason Corvus was able to be as good of a person that he was.
When it's all said and done, I think that if a Primarch gets a good, like, an actually well-adjusted family, they're going to end up a lot closer to Gilliman in temperament.
Right. Okay, let's add some spice to it. Let's say they do have a family. And, I mean, Reach did actually have some separatist and insurrectionist folks, the folks out in the boonies, who I think would be more likely to find the Primarch. So the Primarch, like, isn't guaranteed to be loyal to the UNSC. But let's add that after a few years, this is the way I see the scenario going. There's fighting against the insurrectionists, because we know the insurrectionists had strong presences in Epsilon Eridani. They blew up quite a few freighters and even luxury liners. In a bombing or an explosion or a battle, the Primarch's parents
people keep trying to say the innies are the good guys.
No, dude, they're
Yikes.
not. They're not, dude. But the
Fucking
Primarchs...
Space Caliban.
I don't care.
Whoa. Let us say this. At the very beginning of the Covenant, of the UNSC war, both of them had good points, and then some dumbasses in the UNSC
This isn't a debate about terrorism.
Nuked the world and created a bunch of terrorists.
That's true.
Yeah, but like that's just funny though. Fuck the innies.
Oh yeah, no. Majority of the innies were straight up terrorists.
The sad part is that a lot of the innies actually use American. The sad part is a lot of the innies use American like symbolism and iconography. Like they see themselves as like the lineage of like cowboys and the pioneers and explorers, whereas the UNSC is kind of like, you know, the
literally just the U.S. government.
Yeah, they're basically like the new U.S. government of like CIA, all controlling, all seeing. So it's, at the start, the ideas were pretty interesting, and then the innies just started blowing up cruise liners and stuff. But what I was going with is the parents of the Primarch get killed when the Primarch is, you know, let's say 10 years, 5 years. So the Primarch is like mostly matured physically, definitely like above the point of a normal man, but still very much growing. Primarch's parents are killed by the innies, and then the Primarch is found by the UNSC. And that's when they see, hold up, we got this kid, and wait a minute, this kid is like, he didn't really understand what was going on, and he was strong enough to throw an ODST halfway across the house. And after that, you know, they take him in, and that's when they basically tell him, you know, maybe even maybe the innies weren't even the ones who killed the Primarch, but that's what the UNSC shows the Primarch afterwards to recruit him. But either way, the Primarch's family dies, and the Primarch gets recruited by Oni at some point in like early adolescence.
All right, well, in that case, I'm going to, off the bat, the Khan, Lehman, and Lionel Johnson, 2 free-spirited, 2 independent, and 2 willing to suss out and be able to either smell, detect the betrayal of any Oni operative. Mm-hmm. There's no trust there whatsoever.
All right.
The only difference is to whether or not... I'm sorry?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
There is no way that they're going to trust an Oni operative. They may see them as tools to an end, but those 3 will immediately be on the bad side with Oni. And while the Khan might be able to use Oni as a tool for himself, Lionel and Russ that they're going to be individuals who would straight up say, "Screw you, Oni," and Russ himself might even be like, "I'm going to create my own iddies, and I will create my
Right.
own army that's actually successful."
Right.
Lion iffy as to where he would do that.
Now, mind you,
Now,
just because
Mortarion might be another one, but Mortarion is somewhat blind when dealing with people, but he will endure anything.
right,
Sanguinius as well probably wouldn't trust them because
Right.
he has like very.
Sanguinius and Conrad, if we're giving them their powers, they're both immediately not trusting anything, and I wouldn't be surprised if Conrad shanks a motherfucker.
Right.
I just cursed on a YouTube video.
That's all right.
It's all right.
It's all right. I'm not getting any money anyway. Now, mind you, just because the Primarch agrees to work with Oni doesn't mean the Primarch trusts Oni or belongs to Oni. There were a few cases where the Primarchs did utilize local institutions basically to further their own ends, and a lot of times they thought they were doing the same thing with the Imperium until they found out how all-encompassing the Imperium was. So, and that's the thing. And once the Covenant hits, it's like, even if the Primarch had some reservations or didn't fully trust Oni or didn't want to work with Oni, once the Covenant hits, I think the Primarchs would be, most of the Primarchs would want to get in the line, even the ones who, let's say, were working with the Innies.
If we're talking about Oni getting a hold of these individuals when they are young,
Mm-hmm.
I see the ones who are most likely to be manipulated and most easily pliable to Oni is Horus. Horus wants to be liked by individuals, and he would easily be able to be psyoped.
Yep.
Lorgar, we don't know, because Lorgar is such a product of his abuse and his situation that if he is not put in that situation, it's very iffy. But he's also exceedingly charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up using Oni for his own purposes.
Right.
But if we're wondering, is he the same unstable, emotional?
I think all of the Primarchs are going to end up trying to use Oni because the one completely unifying trait they all have is dominance.
Right. And here's the thing. So, about Little Baldy, he still has his foresight powers. Now, he doesn't have the Emperor. The Emperor's, he doesn't see visions of the Emperor coming.
Primarch, I didn't catch the name.
Little Baldy, freaking Lorgar. He still has his foresight powers.
Didn't have foresight.
He did have foresight.
Sanguinius and Conrad.
No, he had foresight too. He predicted that the Emperor was going to come on Colchis, and he did.
No, that was a vision gifted to him, if I recall.
Really? I thought he had. I thought it was mentioned that he had like sporadic powers.
No, those are visions, I believe, being given to him, not like foresight.
But he does have
his power. Was his thing was a passive charismatic aura and a glow. Basically, he had all of the same. You know how the Emperor could come down to someone and everyone immediately start bowing, despite the fact he didn't want them to be a god.
Right.
His natural charisma was what Lorgar had.
Oh, so he didn't have any sort of foresight or anything like that?
That may have been more due to his connection to the Chaos Gods from the very beginning, because remember, he was brought up in basically a Chaos cult.
I recall them all being like visions, and
okay,
in a lot of cases they were framed in a way that made me think that like it was just to manipulate him.
Okay, well, but this thing is like he started the big civil war on Colchis because he predicted that the Emperor was going to come, and it was bloody. Like it killed 2 million people. But
so
either way,
the only one we haven't mentioned yet that I think would absolutely thrive the minute Oni got a hold of them. Now, that's the question as to whether or not this would be because of their upbringing or because of their natural ability. Alfarius Omega.
Obviously. Oh, now here's the question. Do they still get split?
That was the other question, because apparently one of them never left Earth, so the other one did.
I think they still get split. That was an effect of the traveling through chaos, and I think the splitting, because I think the reason why one of them landed on Terra and the other one landed so far was just because the split basically launching them in opposite directions. So yeah, one got shot backwards, and then momentum and all that forced the other one to fly way further. That's why Amagon was the last one to be found. So I could easily see that, like, you know, that extra energy just tossing them into completely different realities. So we'd have one of them. Now, as far as I know, they're identical, aside for their upbringing. So, yeah, I could see one of the twins land in human-controlled space and immediately feel an incompleteness, but still have all the Alpha Boy's tricks. But with that,
that would be a very interesting one and hard to find, because half the reason that Alfarius and Omega knew it is because one of them had connection / was able to be with the Emperor. And their whole trick, aside from espionage, the doublethink, all of this seeing through lies, that's partially because of their upbringing with Malkador.
Mhm.
And their gene or their genetic trick is, here, let me take my blood out and give to you. The only way and suddenly you now look like a copy of me,
Right, and you have my
but in your own
memories.
height. The only way that's pulling off is if suddenly Omegon/Alfaria ends up at a blood drive somewhere, and then some weird shit happens, and then
Right.
Oni's definitely finding out.
Right. But either way, yeah. And so I agree with what you guys were saying before. The Primarchs naturally dominate. The Primarchs, they have a stupid amount of like they're very knowledgeable, they're very intelligent. They have a lot of just knowledge just baked in that they don't even have to learn. So I think that they're going to try to use the powers that be to rise as much as they can. They naturally dominate. But once the Covenant starts moving in, I think they'll realize that whichever faction they choose, whatever faction they choose to make, humanity surviving is kind of necessary for that. So they have to basically work with the UNSC and with Oni pretty closely. So with that out of the way, the Primarch gets found, during the Insurrection era, a little bit before Spartan 2. Once the Spartans start cooking, how do you think Oni will try? Do you guys think Oni will try to do anything with the Spartans based off of the DNA of the Primarch? By this point, let's say it's been a couple, like 3 decades after the Primarch's
Oni
been
is
found.
absolutely going to take blood sample scans, all of that
Oh,
other
yeah.
crap.
Oh, yeah.
They might not vivisect them, but
No, but they're
they'll be doing stuff.
right now.
Question is, I don't know if, aside from Alfarius and Armagon, if blood sample scans, if anything is going to do anything for the Spartan program with the Primarchs. What I do see is, were there any genetic abilities or
maybe
gifts?
so. Like, I don't. Here's the thing. I don't see it really mattering at all. There's a lot the UNSC could learn about, like maybe more stable genetics, the muscle fibers, blah 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 blah.
Right.
That could certainly be useful, like in general in the future. But overall, I don't think it's going to matter.
I'm with Zoro. I'm with them on that. What I believe is more what the Primarchs themselves can provide, whether that be tactically, technologically, economically, logistically. And in that case, I think certain Primarchs shine. This one specifically being Ferrus Manus, Persa Rabo, Rokal, possibly Gilliman, mostly on the logistics side. And then Lionel for tactics, if he could be, brought out of his near autistic antisocial personality disorder. And then once again, because people underestimate him, but he was also a tactical genius, the Khan. All the other Primarchs do have advantages that many of those same that they could advance and do if Oni and or even the Admiralty use them. But the guys who I mentioned were the ones who were either known specifically for either a technological, tactical, or strategic advantage that was greater than all of their brothers.
All right. With that, let's start to make a list. I'm not going to open up a tier list maker right now, but let's start with a list. Who do you guys think are the Primarchs? We're going to make a couple of lists. I'm going to say useless Primarchs, moderate Primarchs, the good ones. Maybe from there we'll narrow it down to like the best one or two, and then the wild cards. So let's start off.
When is the Primarch arriving again?
Primarch is arriving probably in around 2490s, so near the start of the Insurrectionist era, start or middle of the Insurrectionist era, somewhere on Reach, probably. I'm going to say with Reach, but a little bit before.
25, or 25-24 was Harvest, right?
25-26 is when the UNSC found out.
Okay, so 2590s, they'd be around 30.
Yeah, I thought it was 25.
30 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so by that point, they probably would have been aware of Oni, and Oni probably would have been aware of them to some degree. They may not be on the best terms when the Covenant arrived, but they'll definitely know of each other. And yeah, I think the Primarch would most likely, depending on whatever faction Primarch ends up with, because within that 30 years, I think a Primarch could easily join an insurrectionist faction if he was inclined that way, or even make his own. But once the Covenant shows up, I think they'll work together pretty quickly. Now let's start with the first list, the useless Primarchs. Who do you guys think will be the Primarchs that they're not really going to achieve much? They're going to be pretty vanilla.
So if I may, I'd like to preface this by saying no Primarch would 100% be fully useless.
Yes, that's true.
Because they would still be a tactical mind. They would have all of this stuff. They'd probably be, even if they only had 30 years, they didn't know jack shit, they only had the UNSC's technology max, they would be on par with at least the admirals the Admiralty
Yep.
In tactics and all that stuff. Whether or not they would be up there in that command, different. My votes, fuck. Mortarian's not much without his Legion.
He is very tough. But
He's a guy. He can take a hit and he can dish one out. One soldier is not going to turn a battle.
Yep. I could see these guys like being really good at like leading and organizing armies while leading from the front with the Spartans. Like imagine organizing an entire fleet.
I don't even know that they would have the Spartans because the Spartans would be too much of a special force. I could see them leading from the front.
Spartans, they wouldn't be utilizing Spartans as ground infantry. Spartans were never intended to be that. They were always meant to be more like a surgical kind of thing.
Right. But I'm saying
I'm going to come in after Draft and say that I think that there isn't a Primarch at all that's going to do anything.
There's not going to be Primarch that's not going to do anything? What? My connection crapping out because I'm not hearing much right now. Damn it.
I think there isn't a single Primarch that is going to do anything worthwhile.
Okay. So you think they'll all contribute to some degree?
They absolutely will. Like, every Primarch will contribute to some degree. It's not going to matter.
Right.
He's saying that they're not going to have the position, the power, or the ability to make it that much of an impact. The question,
regardless, and the reason why is because of a very simple thing. The Covenant and the UNSC both have very completely unrelated war goals that they're more or less unaware of the other in.
Yes, but at the same time, like, that's the thing is, the way I see it is, like, obviously Primarchs have their special gifts and stuff, and this is a very brutal, intense battle, war of annihilation right now. Some of the Primarch special gifts are not going to work as well in this. Obviously, they got their tactical brilliant minds, they got their aura, they got their charisma, they got their very imposing physiques, but for a lot of the cases, that's just not going to be enough to make a meaningful difference, and that's what I was thinking about.
See, the thing is here, meaningful difference is it's the question of will humanity as a species survive?
Right. And
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It's a yes or no.
Right, and I think some of the Primarchs, it's an absolute yes. Like some of the Primarchs, I think are going to be very capable in this situation.
There are Primarchs who, if they are given the chance to either the power or given the chance to make tactical or strategic decisions, or provide certain technological advances, they could make a meaningful difference.
Right.
I could see certain Primarchs possibly getting UNSC Forerunner technology quicker and faster throughout the course of the war. Mm-hmm. Would it happen before the war? Probably not. I could only see one or two of those Primarchs actually making a major impact before the Covenant War that would actually have an impact during the war later, and it would be a minor one.
Right. Well, here's the thing. It took the UNSC absolute decades to be able to even reverse engineer basic Covenant tech. I think the right Primarchs could get that done within a couple of years. And the UNSC has some staying power. They have, I think if none of the Halo game shenanigans happened, I think the UNSC probably could have held out for maybe 35 to 40 years.
If it wasn't for the Halo game shenanigans, everyone would have been dead in the first game.
Yes. No, not everyone would have been dead. So Reach gets burned in 52. Then because of foreign artifacts, they tracked down to Earth later that year. But even if Earth gets annihilated, there were about 50 human colonies left.
All of them would have been exterminated. For sure. But the end goal is light the sacred rings. The rings go, humanity goes.
Right.
Period.
Everyone goes.
Not aware of this. If anything, because of how it's balanced, it's very precarious. If anything happens to upset the balance, the Covenant win.
Right.
It's that simple. And this is especially coming from the standpoint of, because of how things went, humanity. You can technically say that humanity won. They survived. Their war goal was met.
Right.
They survived.
Right.
Which is part of why it doesn't really matter, because the humanity is either going to survive or they won't.
Right. But I think some of the Primarchs are definitely going to make sure that humanity survives very well. We're going to talk about them later on. But for now, let's talk about the Primarchs that are going to be least. They're going to contribute the least, basically. And let me pull up a picture of the Primarch list. I think it's probably most efficient to just go in order. Let's see.
One moment if you don't mind.
Yep. Just pulling up a picture, and I'm going to post a picture, and we're just going to go in numerical order because numbers are awesome. I copy image, I'm going to post it in ODPC chat. First of all, first the bottom tier, the not useless tier, but least effective tier. Do you guys think Lion qualifies for that?
I think the least effective would be the 2nd and the 11th, personally.
Well,
Well, yeah, I think we know nothing about them.
well,
Yeah.
second has a really good homebrew Primarch. The Lightning Bearers.
We're not. I'm not. No homebrew.
Cool, but he's not cannon pockets.
Well, I got my 11th guy, so I don't know,
He's
man.
also not cannon pockets.
I feel personally insulted right now. But okay. All right.
We can
Sorry,
like hardcore insult you if you want.
All right. We'll make a separate tier for them at the bottom. The what was it? The Forgotten
losers
and
tier.
Forgotten and the Purged, and then above that we'll have the ineffective Primarchs. So
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we had the 2nd and the 11th definitely stood up to the Emperor. I think they might be able to do something.
No, hold up. Should I get one of those like ranking charts that's like A through S, and then we can start dragging the PFP?
They stood up
I was
the
thinking
Emperor,
about
yeah,
that,
but
I was thinking about that, but let me see. Actually, yeah, I'll pull up a Primarch tier.
Well, actually, we don't know if they stood up to the Emperor. One of them might have just died to the Rangdang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't know. That's the best part.
Well,
maybe they just.
You guys should really read the
Take
Lightning
first
Bearers. You guys should really read the Lightning Bearers because that one's pretty good. It shows him facing off with Lehman Russ, and then I'm gonna write more stuff for my
Hang on.
guy. But,
yeah, but like I don't normally fuck with major homebrew stuff like legions and shit. That's like I don't really fuck with most of that stuff. Like homebrew chapters, yeah, I fuck with, but like legions, nah.
I mean-
Most of them are cringe.
No, I kind of agree with Gio. Don't get me wrong. I might read your stuff if you want, but to be quite honest, homebrew chapters, it's like, okay, they could be Trader Gene Seed, they could be real Gene Seed, they could be a mix of both because the Mechanicus are crazy motherfuckers.
dying.
Why is this so ugly? Oh yeah.
Sorry, Zoro, you said you were dying.
All right. All the pictures for the Prime. Okay, finally we got some better picture for the. I can't change this one. Balls, bro. Why are all the?
All right, let me see if I can provide one that's a little bit better.
Oh,
Nothing against that
all
one.
right,
That
there we
one's
go.
very lightly stylized.
There we go. Now, how many categories do we have? So we have the best, which is going to be S tier, and then we're going to have the pretty useful ones. Then we're going to have the mid, and the S will be like for like the ones and the two best ones. A is going to be the pretty good ones. Hold on, I should turn on my screen so you guys see this. 1 second. Share your screen. There we go.
I provided another picture as well. That's a little more.
Yeah, I got the tier list open, tier maker open. All right, and these are some good pictures. These are some good pictures. All right, so S is gonna be like the one or two best ones. A is gonna be the ones that are pretty good. B is gonna be average. C is gonna be like the useless or not useless, but like ineffective, and then D is going to be forgotten and purged.
Can Forgotten and Purged include ones we think should have been Forgotten and Purged?
Sure, why not?
Okay, then
No,
throw
they're
Lorgar
gonna
in
go.
there.
They're gonna go in C. C is going to be
Throw-
ineffective.
No, throw Lorgar and Forgotten and Purged, or at the very least throw Erebus in there, just because fuck all him.
I can't add Erebus, but here's the thing. Look, I have a soft spot for the little Baldy. I got a soft spot for Lorgar because like I'm a man of faith myself.
His character has gotten better over the years.
Dude, his character is
especially.
so good right now. Like
Yes, and most of the blame has gone to Erebus, but at the same
Yes.
time, we still have to remember who's the man who gave Erebus all that power. Fuck you, Baldy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was abused by Corferon. He was probably like spanked and probably worse. Probably some real dark stuff.
We're not gonna go into that, okay?
Spank up Primarch.
All right, ineffective. Then B is going to be let's see what's.
I think we have all graduated high school. I'm pretty sure we understand the concept of a tier list.
I know, but I want to
You
keep it to, like,
graduated?
actual.
Yeah, sorry. I think most of us have.
Says the dumbass going back to college for his second degree.
High school, not college, baby. I'm still in. I'll be drinking later. The best. Besties.
All right, now Forgotten the Purge. They didn't put the Lost Primarchs here, which I'm a little bit disappointed. All right, ineffective. Who do you guys think goes there?
I already put my vote in for Mortarion.
Okay, Morty. He's not that smart, is he?
It's more along the lines of half of Mortarian's victories, half of what Mortarian came from was both because of his resilience and his Legion.
Right.
And his Legion sharing that resilience.
Right. And
he doesn't have the super soldiers to push on through push through. He's not going to. There. Because Mortarian takes control of UNSC forces. Guess what? If he continues to do the same thing he did with his Legion, they lose the war real freaking quickly because they just don't have the manpower.
Right. He stripped a lot of the depth away from the Dusk Raiders, a lot of the strategy and he just stripped that away in favor of the tactics that he kind of had to employ on Barbarous, but that didn't really belong off of Barbarous.
Here's the question.
Yep.
Can we have one in the middle that says wild card? We're not sure where they would go.
Yeah. I'll change.
I feel like all of the wild cards would go down into ineffective.
See, here's the question, because the first person I would put in wild card would be Magnus.
Yes, Magnus is a big wild card one. Yes.
Because we don't know how much the warp would affect that universe.
I don't think that's going to matter.
And if it doesn't affect it, he's still an exceedingly intelligent scholar. So whether or not he'd be able to figure out either technology or
he'd actually understand some of the technology. I'd put Magnus in moderate. His thing is being smart.
Mm-hmm. It's being smart, but
it's also being ineffective because he's paralyzed by his intelligence.
I don't think
he's an academic,
right? But I think
never leaves the classroom.
Good.
I think
being an academic is good, but he's an academic who never leaves the classroom.
Yes, but this thing is.
He still teaches. He still publishes papers.
He was still. I mean, he still commanded during the Great Crusade, and he didn't have he had more victories than Lorgar. Otherwise, because the Emperor said Lorgar had the lowest rate of compliance. And that's the thing is, in Monarchia Burns, the Emperor tells Lorgar specifically, Lorgar says, "I want to be a preacher. I want to spread the gospel of you." And the Emperor says, "No, I made you to be a general." So whatever.
It's just, the reason I'm saying wild card, and I specifically wild card is not low.
Right.
Wild card could be high or low.
We don't know.
Because
right.
Magnus could go either way.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say.
No, 100%. That's why I'll keep Magnus.
I think he'd still 100% go the way of the scholar and learn shit. And possibly probably even teacher. I'd put him in moderate as far as academic shit.
The thing is, I don't know how the magic is gonna work. I don't know how much of the
magic, just technology in general.
Even with yes.
Well, that's why I think we should put wildcard either above. It should be above ineffective, but maybe even above moderate because we're not sure if it will go lower.
I think wildcard just stands alone. I don't think it needs to be put anywhere.
Okay.
All right. I mean, again, wildcard it's separate from the list basically because it could be anywhere. But
you know what?
We'll fill out wildcard.
If there's a way to split the picture and put it in moderate, the worst he could do is moderate. The best he could do is wildcard, which we don't know where that would be.
Right.
But he can't do any worse than moderate.
We'll fill out wild card later. Let's fill out the rest of ineffective now. Who else do you guys think would be not so good?
I'd rather just go Primarch by Primarch rather than
You think so?
Tier.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing is once we go higher up the list, there's more and more to say. I
figure out we could do that do the saying all later or maybe in another installment of the podcast. I don't know, part 2 since the previous one had a part 1 and 2.
Yeah. I just think it'd be better if we knock out the ones that are gonna the ineffective and moderate ones are gonna have less to say, and then once we go to the successful ones, we're gonna obviously get bogged down in specifics, and I'd rather do that once we got the rest of the list filled out. Does that sound good to you guys?
No, the man's the host, so
I mean
what we can do is this: we can knock out the 2 lower tiers. Mm-hmm. And then from there we'll go with what Primarch by Primarch with who's left, and we'll figure out which they.
All right.
Okay, I'd put Alferis Omega on ineffective.
All right.
They would spend too much time scheming in Oni. And
yeah.
It's not just that. They're just made redundant.
They are redundant because they're good at human infiltration, and that's not what you need. Well, they could probably work a little bit.
There's things that they could do, but overall they're made redundant by Oni, AI, and other things.
The best thing that they could do is they could see what in Oni would work best according to them.
Right.
And make sure that goes to the fore. The only problem is they are so much of the scheming lies and everything else that nobody would trust what they put forward.
Nobody trusts Oni. I'm
Right.
not worried about that in the
Right.
least.
Well,
Now
no,
there's that.
it's more along the lines. So there's a wonderful thing where Alpharius does not trust Dorn because Dorn does not lie. If you can't trust Dorn, then how effective are you going to be?
Yeah. It's
You
he
can't
gets he,
Some people's
you can't
jobs not to
trust.
trust everyone. Like
You
that's. I don't
can't-
think that's the bad.
Not
Now,
trusting
Fairies-
Dorn is not trusting the ground beneath your feet.
right. Now Alpharius just gets so
Never
stuck in his
should.
own BS. Not to mention, I mean, I think Alpharius could have a little bit of success with the Jackals, but they're very low on the Covenant.
Not really. Jackals like.
Because some of the
they're very
Jackals did
simple.
collaborate,
They're
but
easy. Like Oni can deal with it. It's
yeah.
like my thing with Alpharius and Megon is that they're just kind of made redundant.
All right.
Another one, and I know you love the boy. I'm sorry, Lorgar. The only thing he has is his charisma, so he might be able to pull Ennies away from the fight and get onto the UNSC side. But aside from possibly slightly bolstering the forces,
Yeah, like I would
Dude,
also.
what
I
if-
agree with-
Lorgar's a propagandist.
Dude, what if
in this
Lorgar?
situation.
What if Lorgar actually gets like found and raised by like a Mormon or Jehovah's Witness family, and he just like
We're so screwed.
and like
I'm
as the
not-
war's
I'm
going
not
on,
worried. I'm not even gonna think about that.
dude,
but no,
as the
I'd
war's
also
going, like
put
he's
Lorgar
just
in perspective.
preaching the Book of Mormon. It's like, dude, that would be so funny. That
Then
would-
he would be more obsessed with retaking Jerusalem.
yes.
But no, he
That would
also
be-
goes into ineffective because again he's made redundant.
right.
He's also the worst fighter out of all of them.
Yes, he's pretty bad.
He got
Okay,
beat
that's-
up by
I don't think being
Gilliman.
I don't think being
Gilliman's
the worst
lower
fighter
third.
in this scenario is going to matter all too much. But
It's not going to batter all too much, but a martial-minded individual will be able to put that to their tactics. And
Mhm.
being someone who isn't even martial-minded does take away from your tactical and strategic ability.
All right, now the next one that I got some mixed feelings on is God's Perfect Femboy. What do you guys think of him?
I think he would be higher up there than you think, if only just because he was
No, he was actually pretty smart with technology. You're right. He helped revive.
not with the tech or any of that. He was anally
Which
retentive and
one you're talking
obsessive
about? I
about
want to be on
tactics.
the I want to be on the same page here. Which one are you talking
Fulgrim.
about?
Fulgrim was anally retentive about getting
Oh,
tactics down.
him!
Right. He may not be. Okay, let me put it this way. He would study, if putting this in U.S. military terms, because they're raised
No,
and
no,
dealing with
Fulgrim
that
was
stuff,
ineffective.
Fulgrim.
was effective, but he would basically study warrior battle drills 1 to 10 religiously, make all his men be able to do that in the blink of an eye in
Fulgrim
their
is just too
sleep.
needy. Like he's just too needy. He's
Yeah.
too bitchy. He goes in ineffective.
I could see him as moderate.
I'm gonna.
I could see Fulgrim as moderate, and
Here's the-
even more so because he didn't really start to falter until he fell to chaos. Before
Right.
that,
Right.
he was
Sure.
extremely effective at taking the worlds. He was extremely
Right.
strategically minded. The only
Yes,
problem he
was
would
using
be
Space
is he
Marines.
would have
He
the
was-
same issues that the Marine Corps had in the early World War II, which is they were trying to do too much with too little,
Right.
and they were causing too many casualties.
Now, just for
Yes,
reference.
but he had Space Marines. He was equipped with a legion of beings capable of at least keeping up with him on some level.
Here's the thing.
True.
If
That's why I say moderate.
right. Here's the thing. If Fulgrim grew up like Gilliman and ended up the way he would, I'd put him in absolute trash. But he grew up like on a dying hellhole, and he revitalized it. So he's got the skills. He's got the skills. I think the reason why he clung so hard to the fashion and the beauty and the arts is because he hated his childhood of the dirt and the grime. But he's got that human touch, but he's also got that skill that you wouldn't expect from him. He's got that technical skill, and that.
He's also that statesman who would be able to.
He's
snooze
not
up
going
to the
higher than
bureaucrats.
I don't
Yeah,
think
no,
he's go higher
he's
than
not
moderate.
going higher than moderate,
Nah,
but he's
yeah.
not going to be 100% ineffective.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Conrad Cruz. You said Cruz, and I just found that so funny. What do you guys think of Conrad Cruz? He is Romanian, so he probably can steal all the Covenant's wallets.
So Cruz is a product of his environment, and without that
I put him
environment,
at moderate to ineffective. Maybe
He's got
I would
foresight. He's got very
moderate, I
powerful.
think.
He's got
okay,
very.
so as a fighter, he was not martially minded. He was entirely on speed, and when it came to his physical strength, he was probably one of the weakest ones.
Right.
But he was tactically minded. He understood. He would do fucking amazingly if he was put as a commander fighting the Innies, because he would out psyops the Innies.
Right. Honestly, he could even scare the Covenant pretty well. There were some Spartans who were good at like pushing the right buttons. I think he could be
the
one of
right
them.
person? No, but if he did not have the upbringing he did, and instead had a slightly I'm sorry, he's Batman. make him raised by a cop, and suddenly we have a almost successful. But I would say he's moderate.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, here's the thing. He also has very, very accurate foresight, more accurate than Sanguinius.
Yes, but he also always chooses the downside.
Yes, but
He
that
would-
did help him tactically. Like
he didn't really know how to take his foresight to build. Actually, hold on. Was his foresight like a natural product or just one of the gods fucking with him?
no, it was a natural thing.
It was a natural thing. But his outlook and his upbringing made him always assume the worst.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, there's that, but also he could use it tactically. Like he could use it to see his opponent's next moves in a duel, not
He
just the big
couldn't
picture.
use it. Like that's the thing.
So I think his foresight could be of tremendous use to the UNSC.
It could be. The problem is getting them to trust him. So I could put him in wildcard, but he would definitely be a moderate, no lower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know if I would put him as successful unless we could there's
Unless we
too
could
much of a
prove-
question about his upbringing and
Right,
whether or not we'd
right.
be able to get him on enough antidepressants.
Yes.
Well, I'd only put him in successful like if he could control the visions.
Right,
Like, I want
so-
to see this.
Yeah, I'll
He
keep him
can't.
in wild card. I'll keep him in moderate. Yeah. All right. Next up, the doggy.
Wild card.
Really?
Oh my god, I'm back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Russ is a wild card, and if only just because,
He's just
as someone put it to me recently, Lionel Johnson is a wild beast pretending to be a knight and a man.
Yep.
Lehman Russ is a knight and a man pretending to be a wild beast. And so both of them have something about them that is good. I'm not going to say that Russ is a tactical genius, but Russ knows where
No,
to hit. when to hit.
Russ is very capable tactically.
Oh yeah, no,
surprising.
not going to argue that he's exceedingly capable. I would almost put him in successful.
No.
But
no, I'm
there's
not putting him
something
successful.
about him that makes it like it depends on the.
He
upbringing.
has a very strong disrespect and disdain towards authority figures.
Right.
that as well. Well, not
Fuck you,
entirely.
Dad.
He absolutely loved Malkador.
I'm discounting the Emperor.
Yeah.
And, well,
So
No, he
He was the
actually
Emperor.
did not. He
His
actually
family.
he was loyal to the Emperor, but the Emperor was a liege to him. He saw Uncle Malkador more
Right.
as a father figure.
Yeah, now like take a planetary governor. How do you think he's going to act towards that? 'Cause that's what we're
Yeah,
doing
slap a motherfucker.
right.
If he disrespected him,
Right.
unless he did it in a way with class and was like it was a good insult. In which case, then he'd be like, "I kind of like you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever
Also-
do that again."
Yeah. Also, I just recently finished Prospero Burns, and everybody who goes through that book immediately has like the Wolves tick up a few points. So, yeah, I think he'd be effective.
There's
This thing
something
is-
beautiful and uncomplicated about the
That book was amazing. That book was so beautiful. But that's the thing is, Lehman. The wild beast is definitely a cultivated persona, both for fear and for underestimation.
And for attractiveness. Oh, is that just me?
Oh boy, I think you've revealed a little bit too much. Oh Lord, I have to start asking questions.
I mean,
no,
I'm
no,
not.
we asked
I'm
other
not going to
questions.
say that I have not myself tried that. Unfortunately, I'm too much of a fat ass. And have no
I'm
charm
about
to
to
begin
commit a hate
with.
crime.
All right. And speaking of attractiveness, Sanguinius.
Oh.
My dad?
Yes,
Moderate.
yes. What do you think about your dad? Where would you put your dad?
I would
S tier.
not-
There's only one spot for my dad. That's S tier.
I'm not putting
My
him in
dad
S
is
tier.
at least successful.
I would
We're
put
putting,
him.
we're putting my
exceed-
dad in S tier.
I'm not
I
putting your
would
dad
put
in
him-
S tier.
Okay, so let's put it this way. Sanguinius was one of the few Primarchs to actually ask the Emperor, "What if I refuse?" When the Emperor came to him.
Damn.
He had the gumption, he had the balls, he had a care for his people. And then when he went and said, and when neither of them answered, and the Emperor said, "You won't," he said, "Well, then my people, leave them be, let them be as they are, keep whatever their traditions and cultures and worship are, don't touch it." And the Emperor, to an extent, honored that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would I put him as the most successful or the besties?
Well, I'm
That's
rating
where we
them on,
get
like, the
iffy.
scale of how they're going to affect the UNSC. I'm just going to put him in moderate because he has charisma. He's incredibly tactically capable. Like that. Like
He also
every
has
Primarch is
foresight.
tactically capable.
For
He-
that,
he can
for all
fly.
of those same things. Forget the flying part. Forget the extremely tactical capable, extremely charismatic, having the gumption to stand up to even the freaking Emperor, so he'd be able to tell Oni to go pound sand. And even his foresight, which is not as good as Kerr's, but still enough, while simultaneously making the right choices, I would put him as successful. Would I put him as the best to help the UNSC? That's where we get iffy, because he might almost hinder the UNSC by telling Oni to go pound sand and even dismantling them.
Right, when they're not morally... Now, here's the problem.
Because he's got too strong of a moral compass.
What if Oni tries to amputate and dissect his wings?
He kills them. Assuming
we now have a Sanguinius who's leading in any army that rivals UNSC, if not better.
Yeah, fair enough. So
and if that happens, I'm going to say that the Covenant wins.
Yeah, fair.
So that's why he's saying successful.
If Oni is dumb enough to try to take away his wings, we deserve to be glassed.
Yes. So I would say successful.
I don't think they try to take away his wings. I think they try to find a way to put his wings on Spartan 2s because yes.
Wings Spartan 2s,
cool
I love that. All right. Next up, Jagatai. What do you guys think?
I think he would be okay. He is one person who would who could side with the Innies, but at the same time, working within the establishment, he has the tactical mind to be up there with the best. In the fact that he has the ability. I want to say the best, but you have a point with Wildcard.
He's just predisposed to, again, kind of do what he wants.
He's predisposed to balk authority, but once he's working within that authority, or even has the greater amount of authority than most, he could lead the UNSC tactically, strategically, and with enough balls to cripple the Covenant in the right places.
Right. But this
would be the one to okay the Spartan 3 program before it got okayed, and then he would use them even better than they were used.
Yeah. The Spartans 3s got shafted in the lore, in my opinion, just because the vast majority of Spartan 3s are introduced and then killed off in the same book just as a plot point. Ghost of Onyx spans through 3 decades over the course of
You don't need to tell me, brother. That was my second Halo book. That was one of the ones that was
sad.
Stuck in my soul.
I'm glad that they try to do more with them afterwards by adding the Cat 2s and the Headhunters, but by that point the damage was already done because 90% of all the Spartan 3s were already dead. Well, not 90. Well, yeah, vast majority of Spartan 3s were just
It's not brushed over in the book, but unfortunately, unless you've read that book, it feels brushed over.
Oh, it feels absolutely brushed over. It's they make so many Spartan. Just like within Fall of Reach, they talk about how the Spartan 2s are doing so great. Dr. Halsey literally commends them for having the lowest casualties in the Navy, and then shortly afterwards, after they get their Mark 6 armor with the energy shields, 20 of them die in one day. It's
Mark 5, Mark 6 was only developed sometime after.
Yeah, it was Mark 5, but it was they have energy shields, and then they start dropping like flies just because the plot demands it. And
in other words,
partially because the plot demands it, but also because it's literally But it's also because it was they weren't used properly.
Yeah, they weren't used, but it's also
they were deployed on Reach, the biggest defense against Covenant, and they were deployed. They were deployed as fucking shock troops. And don't get me wrong, they are good shock troops in the moment when they need to be, but they are surgical special forces. They are not shock troops.
Right, but the way they're written, 6 of them die before they even get off the ground. It's just the plot. It was because Nyland wanted to make Master Chief the last Spartan for Halo 1, and that's why all the other Spartans had to be removed. And that's the thing, it doesn't even work. He kills most of the Spartans, but he doesn't even make Master Chief the last Spartan. He just kills them just for the sake of killing them. And again, that's all within the same book. They're introduced, they're hyped up, and then they're all killed. And it's
not to mention a shit ton of Spartans also die in a fucking Pelican crash of all things.
It was a lot. A whole bunch of them are killed, injured, slowed down, and so within just a couple of chapters, it goes from "Hoorah! We got the Force. We're about to go take on the Covenant." To how many Spartans are left? I don't know. It's 1s and 2s. It was dumb. Either way.
People still think Space Marines would lose against Spartans.
We're not doing that here. We'll do a debate for that later on, but we're not doing that right now.
That's a debate that I cannot be part of because there's too much love for both there.
Yep.
I have a lot of love for both, and I can easily answer the question. Anyways, continue with what we're talking about.
All right. Next up, did we fully talk about? Yeah, we talked about. So yeah, Jagged-Eye, and what I was gonna say about Jagged-Eye is that
I still want to put him in the best, but he is just enough of a wild card that I could see.
Dude. Once we start talking about the best and even the other successful ones, I think it's a bit of a stretch for Sangi to be successful, but I'll let it slide for now. Dude, once we talk about the other guys,
Yeah, fuck you.
but
I don't think it's a stretch for Sangy being successful just because his foresight because it's much more controllable.
it's
As
much.
for
I don't think it's
Khan,
as. Yeah, but I
if
don't
the
think it's as.
Khan if they don't fuck over the Khan, he could be the best.
Right.
But the problem is Oni not fucking over the Khan is such a small percentage.
Right. Now here's the thing. Here's the problem with
The
our
question
scenario.
is, would he tolerate the amount of slights they would give him?
Here's the question: how much of the con is because of Jagoras?
Pretty much all of the Khan, I think.
All his ability to deal with slights and personality, what isn't is his speed and his tactical acumen.
Okay, but like so much of his culture. So that's the thing is that Jagatai is an amazing guy, an amazing character, but so much of that is because of the hard-learned lessons. Like,
Well, the other thing about there are two powers. Aside from the speed that everyone fucking goes, there are two powers that the Khan has. One of them was passed on to his sons, and the other one was, well, we can argue whether or not it was. And one of those is a passive power that everyone mentions, and it became kind of a joke, but actually it was later canonized, and it was actually seen as a good thing, and that is they are always forgotten.
what?
A fast enemy that is forgotten will always be able to flank you.
Huh. Okay.
Flank you and destroy you. The white scars are always forgotten. Khan is always forgotten about until he's in the room.
Yeah. Fair enough.
He is always underestimated and never seen. And the third power is that he has something that no other character in 40k has.
Common sense.
Yes!
Yep. Now he is pretty
Now,
good.
whether or not that was passed on to his sons is debatable, but we'll get there.
Dude, the Mantis Warriors, they didn't have a lot of common sense, but damn, they were
Tiger
good fighters.
Prince.
They were good guys. The Mantis Warriors were good fighters. All right.
They're successor chapters. They don't count.
What, bruh? Dude.
Wow.
Okay, first of all, you and I, as Imperial Fist fans, should know that
I will shut up. I know, because my
successful,
favorite chapter is Crimson Fist.
the successor chapters are the ones that matter most because that's like they take the most distilled elements of the parent legion. Either way,
They take the most distilled elements of one of the gifts usually.
yes.
Well, and maybe they take other elements of the other gifts, but we're going off on a tangent now.
The only legion where I would say that the parent chapter is the one that matters more, if I'm actually being honest, it's not because I play Blood Angels, but it's the Blood Angels, because every single Blood Angel successor chapter is so fucking like whacked and like so fucking crazy that the Blood Angels themselves are like the most pure one because they're the most balanced.
They're not
out
all.
of all.
To be fair, that could also be applied to the Dark Angels, but we'll go on.
Mm-hmm.
Eh?
Dude, Angels of Absolution hit hard. All right,
I mean,
next.
on a surface value, all the Dark Angels are the same to me. I mean, that's probably just because I don't know much about them, but like they all just kind of are the same thing.
Well, so
Like-
Good. Also, my love of the Angels has come mostly from Alliance in the Forest and how
Yep.
much that character changed.
I haven't.
And was humbled.
I haven't read his the new one yet, but dude, the Dark Angel books from the Horus Heresy are the best. They're so good. Like
Alliance
this-
Son of the Forest is amazing.
there's this amazing section in I don't know it wasn't Descent of the Angels, it was the next book after that where basically Luther and Zahariel are on Caliban and they're like real sad about this, about being like abandoned essentially because they're hearing that the Great Crusade is coming to an end, and they talk about Cypher, and Cypher's like this title that's passed on generation by generation amongst the Dark Angels and the order before that. And they were talking about how they were weirded out by the new pick of a Cypher. It was a new guy who didn't have any experience in any like power with the rest of the upper leadership, and he was just picked by the line. And they were wondering like, why did he pick this guy when he could have picked these other veteran warriors? And they realized it's because this guy only had absolute loyalty for the Lion. He wasn't beholden to anyone else in the Legion, and freaking Luther says it perfectly. It's like the Lion is the Emperor's son. He's so close to him, but like where the two of them are meant to go, they don't want us to follow, and it's so beautiful the way it just like it's this tension. Like, man.
We're filleting the Lion enough. Let's move on to the other Primarchs.
Next up, actually, you know what? Yeah, let's talk about the Lion. Next up.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm gonna put that motherfucker up with the best, and not because of all the filleting we've done, but just because that man's. Okay.
Okay.
The Lion is an autist whose obsession is tactics.
I think he should go into.
If he can get the UNSC to listen, he would be able to turn around a good portion of the naval battles within the Covenant human war.
Here's what I find impressive about
I'm just going to flat out say no to that.
Here's what I find impressive about the Lion. He's still very tactically gifted and very knowledgeable, despite being raised up on a feudal. Actually, no, despite having his childhood as a wild animal and his upbringing after that in a medieval fortress. Despite that, he's still very, very intelligent and knowledgeable. So if he was actually raised, properly, who knows where he would be?
That's why I'm thinking possibly up there with the best. He would have some Pearson.
I'd say successful because I don't think tactics alone is like.
I
to use a metaphor, assume you have like an apple or like two apples, or say an apple and an orange. Like the apple represents tactics, like the orange represents technology. I'd say the orange would be like more expensive than the apple.
That's
the
true.
orange is worth.
And that's
we go there, but let me put it this way: half the reason the Human Covenant was able, the Human Covenant War, humanity was able to survive so long was because of the Cold Protocol.
Mm-hmm.
That came from a tactical and strategic master, and even then, it was kind of like an obvious choice that nobody else was making. But he put that protocol into place.
Yes, but also
I imagine the Lion at 3.
Well, here's the thing about the Cold Protocol. It was also partially intentional why it was sent in so late. The Covenant cleaned house with the insurrectionists. The Covenant wiped They were talking about that in Bad Blood, how the insurrection was having a big resurgence after the war, and Alpha and I, they're going on about this because Mickey's a traitor, and then Romeo jumps in his typical manner.
I forgot about that book.
And Romeo literally says, "Bruh, you guys are all tripping. If it wasn't for the UNSC, there wouldn't be an insurrection because the Covenant kicked their teeth in and glassed all their planets." And he's right. And so the Cold Protocol seems obvious, but the Oni held off on that until most of the outer colonies were gone on purpose because they wanted all the insurrectionists wiped out, and it worked out very well. Except they lost time though. If they were
just kind of like leisurely ending like fucking humans' worlds, like
the Cold Protocol. The Cold Protocol was one of the first things that was put into place.
No, it was put in 10 years after the war, after the start of the war.
I absolutely love it when the UNSC just do a scorched earth and sacrifice fucking insurrectionist worlds to the Covenant. I fucking love that. Fuck the Innies. True UNSC Patriots upvoted this post.
The Irish drinking.
No,
what?
The American is drinking.
Not yet.
The only downside with that.
Okay, the East Coast American is drinking.
Oh Lord. So while it was a good idea because it removed the insurrectionist fighting power for the most part, they still had some fleets and stuff, but they lost their base. The problem is that they lost time. If they had to play the same cat and mouse game over the outer colonies, which were there's 3 times as many outer colonies that there were inner colonies, humanity probably could have lasted for a century. But instead, they sacrificed all the outer colonies.
I don't know about a century, but instead of 20 years, I could have said 50 years.
Well, again, it was 27 years, and that's with 50 or so planets left. I think the UNSC probably could have held out 40 years before all the major planets were gone, without the shenanigans of main characters going on. And that's with, and again, that's.
I'm still going to protest this by saying
no. The Covenant just killed humans. They killed humans for a lot of reasons, but in the end, that's not their priority. Their priority was the Forerunners of their gods. They got to a lot of human worlds just like by accident trying to hunt down Forerunner relics. They weren't just like pilfering human data. It was just like the pace would remain unchanged.
Well, here's the thing. They burned through basically 600 outer colonies in 10 years, and then they burned through about 150 inner colonies over the course of 20 years. So
yeah, Pockets. That's because they were hunting Forerunner relics, and guess what? Counts as a Forerunner relic. Humans.
Well, I'm just saying, the pace definitely slowed down.
Don't.
The pace definitely slowed down. Part of that is Cold Protocol, but it's like it's
just flat out on that. No, the Covenant really
the pace slowed down because they had the Banished hitting them from the other side.
Like that's a bit of a retroactive thing, but like the pace just
true. That is a retroactive.
It didn't really concern the Covenant. They were doing what they always did.
Well, whatever they're doing, that just means that humanity's not their main focus, and that means that like I think that lends even more credence to the UNSC being able to hide out on some planets even longer. If the Covenant don't care to hunt them down to the last, then
again, I think that doesn't matter.
Well, again, I'm just saying.
I still think the Lion should be up there with successful.
But that's
I'll put the line in successful. I think we'll put all of the ones, like the really good ones, in successful, and then from there we'll pick the ones for the besties, and then we'll go into like real specifics. Next up, Angron, the one who could have been.
Card.
I hate Angron, so I'm automatically like biased to saying he would eat shit. But
Well, hear me out.
I will.
No butcher's nails,
With-
no highlighters.
I want to
No.
say moderate to ineffective, just because a lot of it's guesswork, and I think a lot of it would like
because of that same guesswork, I would say wild card, because it is heavily implied that he would have been the compassionate one. He would have been the one.
I don't think
who
compassion.
He would have been the one who cared.
Wild card I'd count as being unpredictable.
That's-
I would not.
And that's
true,
we
but-
don't know without his butcher's nails. We can't predict what he would do.
The butcher's nails fucked with his head a lot, but not in any way that I don't think.
The
can be
butcher's
like,
nails made him into brr. I'm angry now. Like I would have liked to have seen him be like a bit more dimensional. You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
I would at least put him in moderate then.
I'll put him. That's the last thing is. We know he was a psychic empath because he had the ability to take away the sufferings of others, and allegedly his tears cured cancer. I'm kidding about that one, but
And his semen cured Parkinson's disease. You guys.
oh Lord, guzzle down his semen, and you will be able to remember again. I'm so sorry.
Crazy.
Then,
I'm so
well, in
sorry.
that case, who is Sarah Osman's teacher again? We can have her do it.
Oh, dear God, that's terrible. That's terrible. But either way, even
whatever
with
that old woman who was dying.
Yeah,
made
yeah.
Osmond her apprentice, but also wanted to say "fuck you" to Halsey because women hold the longest grudges the longest and
Absolutely.
the harshest.
Absolutely.
What-
Well, after fighting with each other for 5 minutes. Oh, what's up, bro? What's up, my homie?
Yeah, I'll put him at ineffective just because he didn't display
We
overt
don't know.
technical skill. He didn't
I'll
display.
accept it.
Hmm?
I'll accept it because we don't know. I'll
Right,
accept
right.
it effective because we don't know.
All right, next
But
up.
I would say, if we had an inkling of what he would have been like without the nails,
Mhm.
I think he would have been a wild.
Next up.
We've had some inklings. It just seems like a very stable, just capable individual. That's it.
Yeah.
Which then, in that case, what would you put Gilliman as? Because I think then, without the nails,
Oh,
he would have been at least as good as Gilliman.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit
no,
less.
No.
I'd really just put Gilliman at moderate.
Papa Smurf.
But you're
dude.
right.
We're
you're
gonna
right.
talk about Papa Smurf.
Smurf was too good with logistics.
Yes. All right, next up, the Raven of Dawn, the Morning Crow, the Flyboy, the Blackbird.
If you asked me in any other universe, I would have said moderate. But given the fact that it is Halo, it is a cat and mouse game constantly.
Yes.
The only thing I would say wild card because
Honestly,
you would
yeah.
want to say too much with the innies, but if you could get him to go with the UNSC, he would do for tactics and strategy what the same thing Lion would.
Dude,
The
put
only
him in
difference is
charge.
he would be much more willing to retreat, whereas the Lion would still attack.
Dude, imagine the UNSC like giving him his first Prowler command at the age of 8, and then he totally dominates, and then they put him in charge of the Prowler fleet when he's 15.
Okay, Ender's Game, calm down.
Well, again, I mean, a 15-year-old Primarch is probably weighs more than all four of us put together, and probably.
Hey, my ass is fat.
I
Oh wait, I'm not happy about that. I'm on a diet for that specific reason. Okay, never
defi-
mind.
all right.
Says
I'm
the
gonna
guy.
I'm gonna put him as a wild card, but wild card leading between moderate and successful. I think he could be really good.
I just want to put in my 2 cents. I don't know if I'd agree with wildcard, but I also don't have like any proper like explanation for why not, other than I don't know. I feel like he wouldn't necessarily stick it to the man, but I don't think it's that strong of a sticking point for me, so we can
Alright.
continue.
All right. Next up, the Archbald. I can't say the Archbald man.
Horus?
Horus would be successful, but he would also be manipulated too much to the point where he could almost be moderate.
I
think
don't think being
he's-
manipulated is like a point strictly against him. I'd
Here's
put
the
him
thing.
in successful.
Here's the thing, Horus. This thing is, we talk a lot. I feel like so much of Horus has been taken up by the heresy, and people talk too much about his charisma and stuff. Horus
Well,
is a
the other
tactical-
thing is Horus is also only good because of his attack and his attack.
Here's the thing,
Horus
Horus is a tactical.
is-
This thing I feel like
Horus.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll shut up.
something I don't think he's talked about enough, mostly because all of his other traits came to the forefront. Horus is a tactical genius militarily, and that's not brought up enough. Peter Turbo, who we're gonna talk a lot about Peter Turbo later on. Peter Turbo praised, like he said, where he's great at Siege, Horus is great at Warcraft in general. Coming from
Yes,
Peter
but
Turbo, that's high praise.
we're also talking about an individual who is excelling in a time period of expansion.
Yes.
He
But-
is a tactical genius in the fact that he is basically knows where to throw the assault troops, when to throw them, and how.
Mm-hmm.
UNSC is not UNSC is not fighting an offensive war; they are fighting a defensive one.
Okay.
I'd put him in successful in many ways just because of governance things. I could actually theoretically
Which
see
he
him.
hated. He
Yeah, no, you're right. He did.
Wanted-
Doesn't mean he wouldn't do it.
no. I mean, when he had to deal with bureaucrats, he was pushed
Yep.
them off to everyone else around him as quickly as possible.
You're right. He's somewhere between moderate and successful. I'll put him at the top of moderate.
If you want to put him as successful, I will understand that.
That's the thing is,
But I will say he is a lower end of the six.
I just feel like he'd be able to get the UNSC to like move a bit faster with some things.
honestly, yeah.
He would be that charismatic enough to get them to move
That might be-
faster with certain things, and
So,
he
like-
would be amazing
like,
at
he
using.
could also-
He'd be amazing at using the ODSTs. The problem is, the ODSTs are only one part of the army.
No, like he could
The
also be
Marines.
incredibly manipulative himself. Like I absolutely think he could get things to be done faster.
Yes, and I think since the UNSC didn't have, it had some inter-service rivalry throughout the war, nowhere near as bad as the either the Covenant or the Imperium, but it did have some. I think Horse's skills actually could help out a lot with that in negotiations, but relations between ONI and the rest of the UNSC, because there was some backstabbing going on back and forth.
I also have a feeling that Horus would favor both a combination of pack tactics from the destroyers and then the frigates that shot down ODSTs, because he would use them religiously,
Mhm.
only to leave everything else behind and not realize that the ODSTs cannot always hold the ground without additional armor. So he would have some losses until.
I think he's smart enough to be able to understand like all of the the arms and of the UNSC, all the arms. of
Yes,
different-
but no one moving as fast as him would infuriate him.
Yeah, he did lead from the front a lot. That's true.
And half the Imperium was only able to keep up with him as much because half
Honestly,
Space Marines.
given he had a near mental breakdown from the strain of being War Master, whereas Papa G ran the Imperium after the Great Rift, I'm gonna put him in moderate because of that. That's actually the defining factor. Top of moderate for sure, but also we have to rank these in the tier list, but like within the specific tiers. But yeah, next
Once
up,
again, if it's one of those situations where if we could split the picture, we'd put one in each.
right. And let's see, for wildcard, I guess we can't have much of an order here. For ineffective, who do you guys think would be the best from the ineffective ones? I'm going to go with Alfarius. Alfarius, then Lorgar. I think that's pretty good. And
I think Alfarius and Megan would genuinely be the most ineffective. I think they are just
No.
the most redundant.
I think
They would be redundant, but everyone else in moderate has a handicap. So Alfarius would be redundant, but he would check all the boxes, whereas everyone else would be so handicapped by their own
I don't know. I don't think
inability.
I don't think I'd call everyone else like a handicap because a lot of the handicap was again just a product of their environment.
Maybe. All right, here we go. All right, and so yeah, then Horus, and then Sangi and the Lion. I'll put the line in front of. Actually, no, I'll put the line behind Sangi. All right, next up, since we did mention him, Papa Roboudi.
I'd put Rebudian successful for similar reasons.
I'm definitely
Logistics and real and
Logistics, dealing with government, like people,
resource
blah, blah, blah.
allocation. He would make the situation. He would not be a major change for the.
honestly.
He would make the situation that they're in so much
It's nice to
better.
have a
But
human face to these things.
Honestly,
enough.
I think. What do you think was harder for Roboudi? What do you think would be harder for Roboudi? Managing the Human Covenant War or defeating the Shadow Crusade?
The Human Covenant War.
Really? Are you sure?
Yeah.
He lost billion. Actually, no, you're right. But the Shadow Crusade was not that far off in scale. I think tens of billions of people did die.
Again, like this isn't a scale thing. This is like extinction or not.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, the 500 worlds were on the brink of extinction. And
Yeah, that's just 500 war.
and let's be fair, that's all Roboudi ever really cared about. He only really cared about Ultramar. I'm kidding.
He did. He cared the most from
Now, but here's the thing: it's like 500 worlds of Ultramar in its 800 worlds of the UNSC. Like, Like the scale is not that far off.
But it's not about scale. It's about consequence. Like what is the point? Like it's literally extinction or not.
I mean, okay. Right, but Roboudi, I think he could be pretty good at successful. Now here's the thing: where do we put him in successful? Do we put him ahead of the line or not?
I do not put him ahead of the line just because
that administration.
Let me put it this way: no. Here's the thing, and as
administration.
Well, as an American, no. Here's the thing: as an American, who I'm not going to compare the line to Patton because. One, here in the United States, we give Patton too much credit, and I will say that.
Patton slapped a couple of guys, and the line blew Nemuel's head off. So
no, we're not. No, we're not going there. The reason I was about to say that is because I was going to compare. I was going to compare Gilliman to Eisenhower.
Don't exist.
Yeah,
but I would almost put the line at Napoleon. When it comes to strategic thinking being able to.
I think Napoleon was very vainglorious. I think Napoleon's a lot more similar to Horace.
I don't think it's very worthwhile. No. I don't think like.
Okay. What I meant by in the fact that he changed the face of warfare.
Oh, I see.
Tactics and its abilities.
I see.
I don't think this conversation matters too much because they have two very different strengths.
Yes, that's true.
This is apples to oranges in this case. I don't think it's worth thinking about.
Thank you. So yeah, but I would still put him behind.
All right, but he will optimize the crap out of all the UNSC production and stuff. All right, next
what
up,
he can get his hands on, yes.
Right, next up,
how much I don't know because here's the thing: the UNSC does use AI that helps a lot.
It does, but also. Roboudi can focus on I think Roboudi can outsmart an AI any day of the week.
I'd absolutely say no to that.
Dude, guys. Roboudi, this is the guy who saved Imperium Sanctus. He
and if the Imperium had access to VI, let's talk Mass Effect VI, let alone AI.
Well, I don't know what VI is. Virtual intelligence?
Just virtual intelligence.
They follow algorithms. Basically, think of them as...
It's more or less what we have today.
Okay.
Think of them as dumb AI.
Okay.
They can't think outside of the parameters, but their parameters can be broad as fuck.
Yeah.
If the Imperium had VI, it would be in a much better state. Do I think that Gilliam is better than a VI? Yes. Do I think he's better than hundreds of thousands of VI working together and networking? Maybe. Do I think he's better than an AI? Depends on what universe AI we're talking about.
Well, not just that, but here's a realistic theoretical example. An AI could say bounce not electrons. I'm way too tired for this. The point is, they're capable of seeing in an environment that the Primarchs are not capable of. They're capable of thinking in ways that they're, literally not capable of. How many visible light spectrums are visible for Primarchs to, gain info from?
I think that's, light spectrum, I think, is a very limited factor because, yeah, I mean, he may not be able to see those wavelengths.
Yes. But... AI, they have access to a lot more than that.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, AI will always be less, more limited than humans in thinking, and that's normal humans. No. You have a freaking supercomputer.
No. Just flat out no to that. It's
okay.
It's
before this one,
okay, the things that AI could do.
Dude.
Before this tangent goes too much onto this, let's ask this:
can an AI bang
No, we're not gonna go there. What we will say is this: Gilliman's not having any. He's not on Ultramar. He's in. Do we think that Ultramar had more capabilities than the UNSC? And if so, then maybe we say he could have been better than an AI. If we don't say that, then we're gonna say that AI probably at this time he's 30 years old. He doesn't have the centuries of wisdom to pull from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say the AI is gonna be better.
Right, but at the same time, how long did Gilman live before his resurrection? He didn't live that long. It was 200 years in the Crusade, which he did learn a lot from that. He learned a lot during the heresy. How long did he live?
My God, Dante pretty much older than any Primarch.
Yeah. That's the thing. Gilman said that Dante can speak to him as an equal because Dante probably lived 2 or 3 times as much as Gilman did.
I wouldn't even say Dante is an equal. I think Dante is like again. This is probably me being biased because the Blood Angels.
So, if I remember correctly, Gilliman was last around for the Imperium around M33.
No way. When there's no way he lived that long. When did Fulgrim cut his throat?
You might not want to show that
I think
on
this
your
is a
screen.
tangent that doesn't matter too much.
And we can cut this out of the.
Though I do love the fact that you use the whippet from oh god, I can't remember the name of that animator who does that. He's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Your Fallout.
Yeah, it's on Opera. It's pretty nice. Either way, all right. I guess we said enough about Roboody. Now we're gonna go up to Sweet Daddy Dorn, Papa Dorn.
All the same things about Gilliman, but with an added tactical acumen and bonus as well as defense. The man did not have as big of a zone as Ultramar, but he was much more well defended. He was found a lot sooner than Gilliman was.
Right.
And he was a much better tactician.
He pretty much left a stable chain of worlds leading all the way back to Terra, and that was basically the pathway that they retreated upon once Horus moved.
The only thing I could say is he would not be in the best, if only just because he would be too much of an abrasive bastard for anyone within the UNSC to deal with. But I would still put him up there, verging on the best for the time period and what was needed.
I put him at the top.
I would almost put him at the best.
I kind of want to put him at the best, but part of that is a bias.
I want to too, as well. Bias for sure.
Then let's put him up there, and he'll be on the low end of the best.
Okay.
Unless we consider who the best is later.
Well, I think it's better we consider who the best is later. Now, the reason why I think he's better than all the other successful ones, especially he's most comparable to Roboody for sure, but he has a much, not that it matters too much, but he has a much better capability of dueling and fighting. Probably nowhere near as sanguineous and probably not that close to the line, but still proficient. So he's able to fight pretty well. That's the thing is, like, there could be situations where these guys get swamped by brutes, and being able to defend yourself against 100 brutes is pretty useful. And I think most Primarchs could probably be able to fight through whatever army in front of them, but some of them would go. I think like the twins would go long before Sanguinius does. But that's one factor. But what really makes him really special for me is that whole siege defense thing. While Roboody did obviously he saved Imperium Sanctus, and he was defending Ultramar during the Shadow Crusade. Dorn oversaw the war, the heresy. It was Dorn's war mostly, just because the Emperor was.
I am sorry to cut you off, gentlemen. I lost audio for about a minute there.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunate.
What I was saying is, I actually went on an unnecessary tangent about fighting power, which doesn't really matter right now. What makes Dorn special to me, is he's most comparable to Gilman because of that big picture organization. But where Gilman is more behind the lines, economy and logistics, Dorn is that siege and defense mentality. And while Gilman did wonders for Imperium Sanctus and for defending Ultramar during the Shadow Crusade, Dorn oversaw the war. And it was very much his war because the Emperor was...
The best I can say is this. Gilliman is a statesman forced to become a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Dorn is a soldier forced to become a statesman.
Yes, absolutely. And Dorn, this is going to be his... Yeah, this is going to be his war. A grueling, terrible siege. And, well, I mean, he actually did have a softer side. He wanted to build art and amazing things and, like, beautiful buildings. This is going to be his excellence. This is going to be where he's going to shine the most. And so I think Dorn is probably, I'll put him at the best of the rest. And
I'm just thinking about it in part from an engineering perspective because he was capable at that.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I don't think he's.
Let me put it this way. I know at least one of you, if not both, if not two of you, are at least studying engineers, whether or not it be aerospace or mechanical. But first degree, even though it's only associates, is in mechanical engineering and have the same passion. So all three of us, at least three of us, are somewhat sucking off Dorn right now because of the engineering background.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Is like, so the engineering is definitely important, but I don't think that's his defining feature.
I think engineering. Well, sorry. Are you still talking about Dorn? I was interrupted.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no. Like if you're still talking about Dorn, then keep talking.
Yeah.
What?
My mind was elsewhere.
Gio, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I was like, you're all talking about all studying engineering, and I'm just like, oh, I'm the odd man out here. Isn't this funny?
Yeah.
If it makes you feel any better, the second degree I'm going back for is medical.
Makes me feel like I'm still the odd man out. Bro, I'm a music major.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, you are the Jesus.
Yeah.
You are far
Okay,
removed.
so you can express what all of our autistic asses aren't able to do.
That's true.
You can put to words what all of us are trying to put in numbers.
Right.
My
Right.
coworkers, are you autistic too?
Well, in the immortal words of Horace, music and math are just two sides of the same equation.
Sure.
But he
I
used it,
guess,
No.
yeah.
he
No,
expressed it in
no, no,
mathematical
no.
terms, so he kind of ruined the
You-
point.
You. Okay.
Wait, but Heister, you're studying engineering as well?
No. I'm specifically studying economics. I do engineer work,
Okay.
but that's unrelated.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
My apologies. I thought it was Heister that you were talking,
All right.
making the engineering comments with.
But
Sorry.
here's the thing about Dorm. The reason why I'm putting him at the top of successful rather than the bottom of the besties. I mean, we haven't filled out besties yet, and we can we'll talk about that once we put in the others. But to me, while Dorn has a lot of great talents, his big picture defensive focus is perfect. I think what separates him from the other three Primarchs. I'm not saying all the other three Primarchs are besties, but I think what separates him is he lacks the technical brilliance. He's good with technology, but it's more so he's good at understanding how it serves the purpose of the defense. And again, it's like defense doesn't just mean he understands how to build a sturdy wall. I forgot who explained it really well, but it's like
It's the inspiration and risk he lacks.
right, and it's like he understands how like the sinew and the muscles connect to the bones of a fortification. So he understands, he understands a chunk of the human element, the technological element, but it's all towards that focus of defense. That's great for the UNSC in this situation, but the big factor to me, the biggest factor, I would say, the biggest factor in this fight is how easily can the Primarch begin to reverse engineer Covenant technology or make hardwired Imperial technology, because there was a lot of information that was just hardwired into the Primarchs of a sufficient caliber that it can begin to close the gap. And that's the thing is it took humanity basically 3 decades to begin to get the most rudimentary stuff. They needed to basically salvage, and like again, the Infinity didn't have reverse engineered engines. The Infinity had Forerunner engines and Covenant shields slapped on using Huragok to basically integrate it with the human, but it was not reverse engineered. It was not. It was straight up. We found this. We're gonna put it onto our ship and see what happens. And
Whoa, there was some human engineering going into that, so there was
Yeah,
some
it was
understanding,
not
but
as
it
simple
was
as they slapped it on.
some, but
Yeah,
not much. In Halo 4 Spartan Ops.
You're right. It was a lot of the Huragoks doing, but
Yes.
it was the Huragoks using human parts.
It was
And
yep.
when they used the human parts, the humans were able to reverse engineer that and start to understand.
Right, but even then, it's like the engines and the shields, the FTL drives and the shields. Well, yeah, those were all up for.
But the new frigates that all have plasma weaponry and shields don't have Huragoks on them.
You're right. You're
so
right.
We understood enough.
But that's mostly post-war because they had a big technological boom post-war. Throughout the war, and I know the way technology works is that there's small advancements throughout all of these. So even if we don't see them bear fruit,
I think if Dorn was able to see that, he'd be able to make that. But you're right in the fact that Dorn,
it's not his excellence. He can definitely understand it. He can definitely make big progresses. All these guys are league smarter than anyone, like any normal human. So all these guys will probably make technological progresses just because
Dorn would see the practicality of using what was at hand.
Right, exactly.
Instead of wasting resources on something that is new,
right?
Unless he had the resources to.
I think we should just keep Dorn where he is on the chart right now.
Now, I'm also of the opinion that once we start moving into successful, maybe some of the guys in moderate, but once we go into the successful tier, all these guys I think are going to be able to win. They're going to be able to either destroy the Covenant outright, or more likely just force a stalemate where they're able to keep.
I'm more in line with forcing a stalemate, or at the very least surviving.
Right, like. To a point where you got a defensible
like...
perimeter and you're able to, just hold that.
They're able to make an impact enough on the war that humans are in a better position than they are.
I don't think they'd be able to stalemate the Covenant at all.
Without the retroactive lore of the Banished, I don't think that any of
not even the Banished. Like the only possible way that they could actually even come close to stalemating the Covenant is with if the Covenant Civil War still happens.
Right.
That's what I'm
which-
saying.
have to count on
And the
that.
odds
They
of that
don't
are
have
pretty
to-
low.
They can't count on that.
That is true. Well, actually, Truth always had some. In Truth, the prophets are kind of fixed in place because of the way the war starts. Truth always had a suspicion of the elites, so I think that may happen at some point. Now, do the right set of events in the House of Cards just fall together the way they did in the games? Almost certainly not. The Halo could still get discovered, and shenanigans could still happen with that. But I think this is gonna be a much more of a traditional war with a traditional outcome. And here's the thing: Dorn is a big fan of that. Dorn was against.
No, I have to say hard no to that, because for anyone that listens to this that is very aware of 40k lore,
No one's gonna
this
listen
is-
to this. No one watches my videos.
no.
But if they did,
Someone, what
Imagine-
if someone cared?
I mean, isn't that how you trap me into this?
This is
Yeah,
close.
that
Like,
is
this
true.
is roughly the equivalent of Eldar Exodites trying to defend from Necrons. It's not a very tenable situation to succeed in. Regardless of how smart and how capable you are at such a severe disadvantage. It's laughable.
that is true. But
The Covenant's industry, their technology, their scale, their speed, everything is superior aside from things like tactics, but those don't need to be when you can just like
Mhm.
it's like how babies, they have very soft skulls.
That's a weird thing to say
Like
in this
like the UNSC is a baby, and then the Covenant is just a space marine slowly pressing their thumb into the forehead of a child's
No,
skull. Like,
it's not that bad. It's
no, it is that bad.
I think a
It
better
is that
comparison
bad.
is maybe
I'm
like
not
when the
saying that.
Italians.
What I will.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think a better
No,
comparison is. Shit, you talk. I'm terrible at talking.
No, because I keep talking over you, and I know that I'm just going to make this.
Well, you can talk now because he's not talking.
With the intelligence of certain Primarchs, the reverse engineering ability of the UNSC would be significantly greater, to the point where they might not be able to put themselves on a foothold where they're equal
Again,
to the
I'm going to
Covenant, but
say
they
no
would be able.
that won't matter. The UNSC had AI to assist in all of the things they were trying to reverse engineering. There's that. Like, that's one component. The other component is just the feasibility of getting everything into a large enough quantity to actually matter. That's also not feasible.
You're right, they had AI to get reverse engineering, and that was a problem. The difference was, can these Primarchs get into positions of power to allocate the resources to where they think it would do better, versus a bunch of bureaucrats fighting over something else. And what I will say is, having dealt with individuals who deal with that type of personality, that bureaucratic military higher leadership is, I could see where the UNSC slowed itself down, where a Primarch would be able to speed shit the fuck up.
Maybe as far as bureaucracy is concerned, but I'm not too worried about that here because, even Halo has some bureaucratic problems, but it's nowhere near as bad as what we have, especially when they thought extinction was on the line.
Yes, but they also hid that from a lot of folks, including a lot of the military leadership. Like Master Chief, he didn't he just thought we're gonna the big offensive or whatever is just about to happen, and then Dr. Halsey said
He's not wrong in the fact that a lot of humanity within the
again, not even like
did
civil.
not
We're
know
talking
what happened until the Covenant were on their doorstep.
right, but I'm not even like Master Chief. When Dr. Halsey said, "Yeah, I think we got a year left," he's like, "There's no freaking way." And this is Master Chief. Like, I'm sure most of the admirals had no idea. Okay, maybe the admirals might, but like most of the generals from the other branches, they probably had no idea.
But, like,
no offense to their
the other thing
Master
is they
Chief
don't
is
have-
still lower enlisted, and that's someone who's
Yeah.
been in that position myself. They don't tell us shit.
I think
Yeah, they don't get the big picture, and the big picture.
guys.
One of the great examples of the big picture, I think, was the unyielding Hierophant. They thought that would set the Covenant back a great deal. It didn't. The Covenant didn't care. They didn't notice it.
That is true.
Was it it didn't even set them back by a week? They have other stations like that. It was
They have other
fucking
fleets.
negligible.
I find it very funny how Master Chief was a lower enlisted Spartan 2, and
He was
all
sorry.
all considered, Carter, who was a senior enlisted, not senior enlisted,
Officer.
officer Spartan 3, probably knew more than fucking Master Chief, which is laughable considering how lowly regarded Spartan 3s were compared to Spartan 2s.
Yep. It's weird technicalities. It's not great. But
That's just ranking. I wouldn't necessarily call that a technicality because Spartan itself isn't a rank.
right, no, but that's true. But it's like at the same time, it's like the reason why all the Spartan 2s or most of the Spartan 2s are NCOs is just because that's what they like put them as. Like,
Almost
they could have
They
very
didn't-
Spartan.
They didn't
like,
want Spartans as officers until the Spartan 3s came around, and even then they only made certain ones officers for the
Right, but,
special
like-
kill teams that were basically only special teams, and they just gave them officers for the convenience of
right.
you're an officer now. You can now order around and listen anyone lower, and you can
Right.
play big dick piss games with
Right.
the other Oni officers who are going to try and get into a pissing match with you.
Right.
So
Well,
pull it out and show how hampered they are.
Right, but even then, it's
part-
like
want to see part of me really just wants to see a Spartan 3 who's just a fucking Lance Corporal. That would be so funny.
it would. There were
Well, I'm not going to say wrong or no, but what I will say is this: the Spartan 3s followed Army ranks, if I'm correctly, and
Some did
since
Army,
the
some did
UNSC,
Navy.
Since the UNSC is currently based on the U.S. Army, you'll never see a Lance Corporal, but you will see a PFC, which is the same damn thing.
Well,
well,
if the Spartan 3s used Army or Navy, I know Noble Team used Navy rankings, but they were attached to the Army.
Then they also wouldn't see a Lance Corporal. Lance Corporal is Marines within the U.S., but at the same time, I can see what you're talking about. It's the equivalent of an E3.
right.
Spartan 3 would have to be attached to the Marine Corps to be designated as a Lance Corporal, which I mean maybe a headhunter, because even though headhunters were Oni, a few of them were Marine attached. You know what I mean?
Again,
I know
because-
what you're saying, and I also know what you're basically saying is you basically want to see them as the Lance Corporal Underground or in the Army or in the armies known as the E4 Mafia. You want to see that. You want to see that skullduggery, that fuckery, that bullshittery that comes with that style of rank. In a Spartan.
Personal interjection.
I want to see.
interjection. We have 3 Primarchs left. I'd like to try and get this chart done in the next 30 minutes, and then probably call it here for tonight.
yeah.
Because
My
this has been
apologies.
going on for about 2 hours by that point.
It's
yeah.
timer says 1:40, so I think we could get this done within 2 hours. But yeah,
Okay.
and the reason why we went on this deep tangent about all the different things engineering wise is because while Dorn is definitely good with tech, so I think tech is going to be the determining factor. How quickly can you close the gap in order to? And again, Heister made some good points. Heister, you're right. It's like it's actually like in a straight up slugging match, it's going to be pretty difficult. But I don't think it's impossible for the UNSC to win a straight up brawl in certain situations. There were at Reach.
I mean, in certain situations, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think
they can win.
I think they can't win, but they can definitely go to a point
No,
where
they can win. They can win battles. They can't win the war.
right, but they can definitely go into a stalemate, and then from there, maybe there's a change of ranks which causes a schism inside. Maybe the Covenant lose interest, whatever. But just for reference, this is with UNSC Vanilla Tech at Reach. 100 ships and 20 ODPs busted through. They fought versus 300 Covenant ships in the initial wave, in the main wave. And there were probably around 100 so ships before that in the preliminary waves, so all the sneaking around. The UNSC obliterated 100 Covenant ships within a matter of minutes just because of the opening salvos. Now they got their teeth kicked in shortly thereafter, but the Reach was a slog for the Covenant. They lost a supercarrier. They lost numerous corvettes. I think they probably
Maybe
lost.
a slog of a battle. They didn't care though.
You're right. They don't
none
care.
of that mattered.
But that's the thing though, is if that's with vanilla UNSC Tech, imagine you put Dorn in and he starts organizing the defenses much better. He starts making proper perimeters and he starts adding a little bit of technological innovation. All of a sudden, the Covenant is going to have to. It's going to be a much slower for the Covenant. The thing is, the Covenant doesn't have an infinite resource pool.
They don't have an infinite resource pool, but they might as well compared to the UNSC.
No, they don't. They don't. That's the thing is,
they cover a substantially larger portion of space.
Mhm.
They have
Well, that's true.
substantially
The question,
superior factories. They're just that much better.
the
This,
question
this
is
is
this.
part of why humanity is on the back foot. The scale and cost of the game was stop the rings from firing.
right.
But that's why they had to write in the schism. That's why all this stuff. Because in any other scenario, the Covenant would have completely shit-faced us.
Well, here's the thing. If
They,
you couldn't,
well, there's also the question is what are they willing to what are they willing to expend to crush us?
right.
Are we making ourselves too costly to that they would just leave they would leave the less important versions of us alone as
Right.
long as they got the relics that they would.
Right. And
How
at that
much
I
point,
don't
make
think
them
so, because
bleed.
like the less important versions of like what the UNSC has, they're not going to defend, and those are just going to be lost anyways.
right, but here's the thing, it's like if you get to a point where UNSC worlds are so fortified that it's costing you 300, 400 ships per planet. I think Dorn can make UNSC planets that well defended. I don't think the Covenant can do that for a couple of hundred planets. Like losing
The
300,
UNSC can do that for a couple hundred planets.
300 ships per world and do that for. I don't think the Covenant has more than 10,000 or 10,000 warships.
No, I'd say like it's closer to 200,000.
There's no way in
You
hell.
do
There
not,
is no way
you
in
do
hell.
not understand like the
Their
scale
biggest fleets.
that
This
they
thing,
operate at.
they're
They
big.
they as a society are fleet based. As in like as a society.
No, their capital's fleet based, but they're most of them reside on normal planets. They're not. They're
No, it's overwhelmingly fleet based.
I don't believe that at all.
They just use planets for resources. Aside, like they also use asteroid belts. Hell, they have the Hierophant Station is one of, like maybe dozens, maybe hundreds spread throughout like half of the galaxy.
I don't
They
know if
are
I buy. Do you have a
big.
source for other stations of that nature?
Yes, this was revealed by Oni interrogations, like post-war.
I don't, bro. I don't know if I buy that.
Like
I
I
don't
think some of this can be found on Halo Waypoint, assuming the
All
site's
right,
still
well, gentlemen, we wanted to get this done in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Let's move on to
All
next
right,
three.
next Primarch, and this is why I go to tech, because I think tech's going to be the big deciding factor. Next up, Ferris the Manus. Now, this is a big caveat for Ferris. How much of his? Because Ferris is a bruiser. He's a brawler. He's very strong.
He may have been the shortest lived Primarch from what I know, but in every book, when it comes to the opinions of the other Primarchs, he is up there as the highest.
Yep.
I want to put Ferris and Fred Robo into besties.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that he fell at Istvan is because he had a soft spot for Fulgrim. He had a soft spot of trust.
Yep.
And when Fulgrim betrayed that, he turned into a raging maniac who was not capable to normally think capably like he normally would.
Right. And
take that aside, and he was probably the best fighter of the Primarchs, whether that be strategically, tactically, personally. Ferris was the best at war, and all of the other Primarchs saw that.
So yeah, at Istvan,
he is also one of the ones who is the best for technology.
Jiffy, did you read his books? The ones with Ferris in it?
There's only one with him, and it's more fellatiating the Emperor's children than it is him.
I could have sworn he also had his own book. I'm asking because
he does
to me
have his
he's
own
like
book. I haven't read it, but he does have his own.
I'm asking because to me he's like the most forgettable Primarch. I honestly don't remember much about him, and
Right.
like if you asked me to recall things from memory, I forget he existed.
He only has the one, and half the book is spent more time palling around and making the Emperor's children look better, because so much of what is shown is about him and his relationship with the Emperor's children and Fulgrim.
Mm-hmm.
But in every time he's mentioned in everyone else's book, he is always mentioned as the best. Why isn't he here? What's going on?
Right.
Horus believed he could win the heresy if he just had Fulgrim at his side. Everyone else believed they could win if they had Fulgrim at their side.
You mean
Fulgrim
Ferris?
I keep saying Fulgrim.
Yeah.
Ferris is the one they all respected as the best of them when it came to war.
Right. Fun fact: Choir Boy's Luminarium was actually made by Ferris. It was pretty funny because like they fought together once, and I think Lorgar like saved him to a degree, or helped him out basically, and then Ferris was like, "I don't really like you that much. Take this and like get out of my room." Basically, it was kind of funny, and it was like the best weapon that Lorgar ever had, so he kept it the whole time. But this is I think I got a good complete picture of Ferris and his character, and it's tragic because he got shafted by the lore. And it's actually kind of sad because actually, like, Iron Hands are actually a relatively popular Space Marine chapter, which is kind of weird because, like, with the White Scars, it's kind of the opposite. It's like White Scars get some attention, but they're not that popular to be played because their paint scheme sucks, or the painting.
White is nowhere near as bad to paint as yellow, but still.
Yeah. Really? Like
Yellow isn't even that. You just prime it white and then put yellow over it. Easy.
Okay, but
I'll take your word for that.
I got
Yeah, I'll have to
I
take
got
it.
it. I got a good perspective of Ferris's character. So Ferris is a bruiser. He's a hothead. He's a hard ass. He's very smart. He was one of the first. He's the third Primarch to be found. So because of that, and since Horus was obviously everyone's favorite, or for the most part, Lehman was number 2, and he was kind of wild. But Ferris was kind of like the secondary Horus. A lot of the guys cross trained with Horus and were tutored by Horus, but a lot of them were also tutored by Ferris, and that's where Fulgrim met Ferris, and they had their big weapons making contest, and that's where their friendship started. But Ferris, he was basically like, he's not like the older brother. The older brother's Horus, but he's kind of like the secondary older brother. He's very appreciated. He's very strong. His legion is very, very strong. The whole flesh is weak vibe makes him really good friends with the Mechanicus. So because of that, the legion had a very high proportion of Terminator suits. So while everyone else was basically outfitting a oversized first company, Ferris had at least 10 companies of his veteran Morlock Terminators. So he knew how to get good with the Mechanicus. He was widely respected. He was strong. He was, by many accounts, stronger than Vulcan. I know that's a contested subject. In one of the
Taller than
Yes, taller than him too. Ferris is probably
The
12 and a half
tallest.
feet tall, which is just this guy could tackle the Didact without problem.
This is the only Primarch who probably had a chance at looking the Emperor in the eye,
Yeah, no, he's a beast.
with Vulcan being the very next one.
And I mean, there was a passage in a Salamander short story in the Horus Heresy books that I just read, where it said, had the Gorgon still been alive, there would have been some contest between who was stronger on the battlefield. But since the Gorgon just died, Vulcan was definitely the strongest. And given the way, like Vulcan wasn't able to like lift himself up off that cliff holding the salamander, I think it's
Take all of the Vulcan strength, Vulcan's creativity, create all of that, and put it to war.
right.
Put all the effort, put the strategic acumen, put all the muscle. Give it the muscle memory of someone who's been fighting their entire life. Almost to the point where he is a weapon, and he later regrets this, and
Right.
it's why his legion makes such a fall, and why the Iron Hands are such forgotten about Space
Right.
Marine chapter now, because they had such a horrendous fall.
Right.
And honestly, if there is a capability where they do bring a Primarch back, his is probably the one, because he has so much to say.
Right.
And the only reason I say that is not because of the Fulgrim clone thing. That's gone. Anyone who believes that he's coming back, sorry, he's in Trazen Volts, and there's a reason why he's there.
You're right, and that's so sad because that would have been so cool. But you're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
well, yeah, but they
Well, here's the thing though. Jagadai died on the Siege of Terra, but since they had his body there and Malkador was there, they were able to coax his soul back into his body. And essentially, that's what the Primarchs are. Is like they're these ultra powerful souls, which, if some rumors are to be believed, are minor warp entities.
so
And
minor chaos gods.
Exactly. So Ferris, his soul was summoned to fight at the Webway. Um, Again, and his body's not that hard to clone at all. Fabius Bile did it dozens of times.
Which is kind of funny, because if anything, if we're gonna go on actual human entities, Ferris Manus is Prometheus, but we're gonna go on that.
Right. But essentially, yeah. Now, in terms of why he was inflexible at times when he was fighting the Diasporex, not the Interact. The Interact were the guys who Erebus stole the Anathane from. The Diasporex were the guys who had a fleet-based society, and they were humans with aliens living together against the teachings of the Holy Quran, and that cannot be allowed. Now, Ferris found it was a little bit challenging for him to adapt to them. So Ferris can be a little bit stubborn and a little bit closed-minded in what he perceives as battle, and that can make him a little bit unflexible at times. But I think that can make him understand the elite system of honor pretty well. Now, as for the Isfan thing, he was angry, and in his first captain, the glorious Gabriel Santar, he asked him like, "Wait, why aren't we rallying together with the rest of the crew?" And he said, "With this, like, I was closest with Fulgrim. With Fulgrim going traitor, like, the others are suspecting me of being a traitor or being compromised. I have to prove my loyalty. That's why we're charging in ahead of everyone else. That's why we're not waiting for the flagship to be repaired. He actually transferred from the Fist of Iron to a secondary cruiser, and he started moving as many of the Morlocks as possible. It's like, we're leaving the rest of the fleet behind. We are going there right now, and I'm going to beat the shit out of that that femboy fuck immediately, because I need to prove my loyalty. So that's why he charged. He was obviously very mad, but he also needed to prove himself, and that was his problem. Now, my big question, and this to me is so Ferris so far, he can be very, very good. He's definitely successful at least. My question though, without the necrodermis arms and that he got from drowning that Necron entity,
Put him higher.
does he still have his technical brilliance?
Yes.
He does? Okay.
Because I think even he himself recognized that his arms held him back because he came too reliant on them.
Yep. Honestly, yeah. And considering Fulgrim made a sword that he found impressive, and Fulgrim has no necrodermis, no sort of Necron thing like that. I think I actually agree with you. Now again, that technical brilliance, I think in that particular case, Fulgrim made a sword that impressed him, but I think in the long term, Ferris is definitely much more intelligent with technology than
We're getting this wrapped up in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, we are.
I have to dip now so I can take care of the dog in the kitchen.
That's all right.
So I'm just going to put in my 2 cents that I think Ferris and Proto-Robo would both be in besties, both primarily for technology, both in being able to like help fix flaws on the micro scale and possibly the macro scale.
Yep.
I'd probably put Vulcan in like the low, successful to high moderate. He's just very capable. Maybe even besties.
Yep.
I think Vulcan during the Human Covenant War, because of how compassionate he is, I actually think he'd be more of a hindrance, where he'd be wasting so many resources on already.
That's a good point. Anyways, I have to take my leave now, so take care, y'all.
We don't have we don't have Dionys here. He's a big Vulcan simp, so he probably would have stood up more for him. But yeah, you guys
I would put Vulcan on par with Dorn. They have much of the same bonuses and defensive. They have much of the same skills. Their cons are different. One cares not enough, the other one cares too much.
Yep.
They both have much of the same things. I don't think Vulcan is that much of a technological savant. He is capable of doing some great things. So is Dorn.
Hold
No, they are both capable of equal technological savant, of being technologically savant. The difference is where I think they focused.
Hold up.
I think that Dorn would focus on. Let me put it this way: if Fulgrim is a creator of warm, if Fulgrim is a Tesla, wow, Fulgrim. If Ferris is a Tesla,
that's number 3, man. That's
and
embarrassing.
Proto-Robo is an Einstein. Dorn is a Ford, and Vulcan. Why did I say Einstein? Ferris is a Tesla. Proto-Robo is light bulb from New Jersey.
Edison.
Creative light. Proto-Robo is an Edison. Thank you. Dorn is a Ford. I don't know where to put Vulcan, but he would be an artist in individuality and not in mass production.
Yes, but that analogy, maybe it's just that
doesn't work. Yeah, that doesn't work.
Here's the thing. So Dorn he understands technology, but for the sake of part of the picture of defense. Vulcan is the technological mastermind, more so than Ferris, I think. We'll talk about the technology because, again, the technology is what really separates the besties from the successfuls. But Vulcan has the capacity.
Let me put it this way.
Vulcan is the
I see Vulcan as an expert machinist. Verging on a mechanical engineer. Proto-Robo is a mechanical engineer, and Ferris Manus is a mechanical technician mixed with an electrical technician.
Sure.
Ferris Manus has the technical, physical know-how and the skill to put them together.
Mind you,
Proto-Robo has the know-how, not always the skill. Vulcan has all the skill, maybe not all the know-how.
Mind you, Vulcan built a warship. Like none of these other guys, like all these other guys, they got their ships
with Mechanicus' help.
Yes, but it's like all these other guys, they built like weapons and tools and stuff, really impressive ones. One of Vulcan's artifacts is a warship, like it's more powerful than a Gloriana. Like that to me is Vulcan is the expert in terms of technical management. Not to mention the biggest thing, Vulcan made a teleporter, but it's also a hammer.
A hammer. Yes, it's also a hammer.
But it's also a hammer.
that's why I would put him at. Let me put it this way: I would put him on par with Dorn. And the question is, we can argue left or right as to whether or not Dorn and Vulcan belong in the besties or successful.
Mm-hmm.
Continue this conversation, but I'm gonna have to dip now because
Yeah,
it's almost like.
Thank you,
Right.
Gio.
So-
Sorry
sorry.
for that. Unfortunately, you got me left, and
Yeah.
I'm only going to be here for like 2 or 3 months.
That's all right.
Alright.
But yeah,
No
no, I'm
worries.
with you. So I think what Heister said was pretty correct about Vulcan, that his compassion will hold him back. Now again, I think he's very intelligent. I think his technology, he's going to be able to bring that technological gap up very quickly. But I think that's kind of all there is to him. Yes, he's perpetual, but that's not what's really important right now. If he gets stuck on a planet and the planet gets glassed, he can just, he'll keep regenerating, but he'll keep regenerating on a glass planet. He's cut off, that's it. But I think his technological prowess it'll put him near the top of the successful list. I think it'll put him on par with Dorn. Now, Ferrus Manus, with his tactical mastermind.
As I said, the other guys wanted to put Dorn successful. I wanted to put Dorn with besties, and if Dorn goes to besties, Vulcan goes to besties.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my own personal thing.
I think Dorn is amazing, but
then again, I also want to put Lion up there in the best, and everyone else wants to shout me down for that. So my vote is where it is.
Lion's good. Yeah, no, I hear you. Lion's good, but I think we need a bigger Lion. Lion is a hunter. Like, he can focus his full attention on.
He would get television.
Right, and that's not really what we need right now. I think I'm leaning on Dorn. You're right. Dorn and Vulcan are pretty even.
They're opposite sides of the same coin.
Right.
As I said, one is an artist, and the other, they're both masters, but one is a master in the big picture, while one is a master of the small details.
Mm-hmm. I think with Ferrus,
Ferrus and Perturabo are both in the best. They definitely do too much.
Ferrus can be inflexible, but I think his technological know-how, fighting ability, and intelligence, I think that all, Now,
and Perturabo carried the heresy.
Hold on, wait. Let me
the
hype him
only
up.
reason he wasn't one of the best is because of his upbringing and because of one, he could constantly see the Eye of Terror. 2, he ended up in an absolutely shitty family where only his sister was anything decent of a human being to him, where everyone else just saw him as a tool. He then had the worst parts of the Emperor given to him because for some god awful reason, whoever wrote his book decided to make the Emperor a dick.
Right. Now let me hype him up because I want to hype him up. I want to hype up Peter Turbo. Peter Turbo. The man carried the hair. So the man he's a physical bruiser, tactical genius, intellectual mastermind. Those two probably should have been swapped. And I think while everyone talks about Siege, number one, he's just as good at defending as he is attacking. He's the guy who, yes, he did carry the heresy. He was the one who helped break the Imperial Palace. Horus kind of said towards the end that Dorn might have been better. He said that Dorn could have broken through faster, and that may have been the case. But I think the Legion is much stronger than Horus gave him credit. And Peter Turbo knew how to put his boys through their paces. But I think the one thing that really separates him from the rest of the crew and puts him even above Ferrus Manus, Peter Turbo is able to immediately understand how every single piece of technology works instinctively. And that to me is like, this guy's going to understand everything.
The only problem is the minute he tries to decimate anything within the UNSC, he is getting fucking court-martialed.
He's getting what?
He's got to understand. He's getting court-martialed and kicked the fuck out.
What?
The minute he tries to decimate.
Decimate, yeah. But I don't think that's inherent to him. I don't think it's like an inherent part of his. I think it's just
that may not be a part of inherent, that may not be inherent to him, and that may be part of his upbringing, which is why I'm giving the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But he
100%.
is still a brutally calculating and callous individual.
Yes, that is
and
pretty
I
inherent.
think that is partially inherent to him.
But that's the thing is, there's that, but he's not like that's the thing is, the problem for him is that his character has been fricked with a lot, and it's annoying because he's always been very cold, obviously, but he can be very caring at times from the cold perspective.
I agree with you.
He did this joint.
I'm also going to say there are wonderful things about Perturabo. but we do need to end. And if there's any individual who we should somewhat slight while simultaneously ending on, I think it's Perturabo, just because
Yeah.
it's what happened to him in the Heresy.
Yeah.
Though I would say put Ferris in front of him. God damn it.
Yep.
No.
My boy
Yes!
Peter deserves my boy Peter Turbo deserves better.
Then
Show
I
him
say
some
that
love.
in protest because my boy Ferris deserves it even more,
He
especially
does?
because I kept saying Fulgrim.
Yeah. Show Ferris.
Screw it.
I absolutely agree with you. Show Ferris some love. I'm glad that Peter Turbo is a very popular character now. People are starting to understand he's actually like really cool, and he's got so much depth to him. Like I see so much of Perturabo in me in the way like a lot of times you don't want to deal with things. You just want to just pound your fist into your problems, and I just get that so many times, and it's like a lot of times I just want to be cold and calculating and rational. Like
A good author can do that. But
and again, that's the thing is
as it is.
he was so capable. He could have brought so many worlds in compliance and like totally revolutionized society. But he knew that if he did that, nobody would care. So he's like, you know what? Fine, fuck you. And he's just gonna he just threw his warriors against the walls till the walls broke. And it's like, doesn't matter if I lose 20,000, 30,000 when I could have lost 5,000, because it doesn't matter because nobody's gonna care. And they're gonna pat Thorn on the back. They're gonna everyone's gonna praise Ferris Manus. Horus is gonna be beloved. Saint
And he
Witness
had
is
that, and unfortunately, he had that weakness, the similar one to Horus. He needed
right.
recognition.
Dude, if he had Gilman's upbringing, I think he could have been. He definitely would have the biggest legion. Super
He
stable
had
gene seed.
Dorn's upbringing.
Yeah,
Parent
honestly,
father
yeah.
figure.
Honestly, yeah.
Or in Dorn's case, a grandfather.
Right.
But still, a father figure
Who actually
who
loves him.
cared.
Right. And I could have easily seen him have the biggest legion just because, he had such a. If he didn't take the ridiculous casualties and do the decimations, he had such a stable gene seed and such an optimized recruitment process, especially if you had like an Ultramar level of territory to draw from. I could see him easily. If the Ultramarines had 250,000, and that's including a bunch of Lost Legionnaires being added to them, I could easily see the reformed Iron Warriors, shoot well past 400,000. I mean,
No, I mean, there's always an argument as to whether or not the Minotaurs are his, but we'll save that to another.
Dude, yeah. But that on top of everything else, he could have made an excellent War Master had he gotten out of his own way and had because that thing is a lot of times like people did actually want to treat him better, but he didn't want to feel vulnerable. So like he once told Ferris Manus about do you see the Maelstrom, the Star Maelstrom, which was the Eye of Terror, and Ferris is like, the hell? And again, now had he talked to Magnus about that, oh boy, it would have saved him probably, because Magnus tells him, oh yeah, that's like demon shit. That's like really that's bad, and it would have and then he could have talked to the Emperor about it, and he would have never trusted but again, he never wanted to be vulnerable again, and again, he had people who actually did, like his sister genuinely loved him, but he didn't want to be vulnerable. He didn't want to. He needed to be the Lord of Iron, and because of that, he went down the path that he did, and it's so sad in a beautiful way. But if the UNSC raises him properly, then I think
it is. All of these are hypotheticals.
Yeah. Now, I want to do a part 2 where we talk about more specifics. Like, one big question I have is how far. So the Primarchs make progenoid glands, right? They do contain gene seed in them to make Space Marines, correct?
That one I don't know. What I
think
do know is that the progenoid glands and a lot of the gene seed is based off their genetic template.
Right.
And I would have to do a deep dive because unfortunately I don't think that's ever been 100%.
Right. But in general, I'm wondering. So the UNSC, they already have Spartan 2s. They made Spartan 3s pretty easily, and the 4s came after the war. And yeah,
there's too much warp. I'm gonna lay on the fact that probably Zoro would as well. There's too much warp stuff involved for the Spartan 2s to be improved into Space Marines.
Okay.
In that mentality.
But
I will say is, could some of this possibly be used to improve the Spartan 2s? Maybe.
That's what I was getting. That's what I
was. Maybe not.
At.
But not the Space Marine.
Not Space Marines, but I'm thinking again, it's slightly better. Like their genetics are slightly improved. Like I'm not saying Space Marines start having 2 lungs, 2 hearts and 3 lungs now, but maybe their muscles are slightly tougher. Their genetics are slightly improved. Stuff like that. But yeah, you're right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
that would
right.
be something we can look into later,
right.
And we can think about a part 2, or we can think about something along those lines.
But so far, yeah, I think this went pretty well. I have a pretty good list. We pointed out a lot of the things. even though I was arguing with it at the time, Heister does make a really good point, and that is that the Covenant does have the muscle. Like, there's no real winning this unless I don't really see any of the Primarchs having it. But unless one of the Primarchs is able to trigger some sort of schism or civil war, which, I mean, if they hold out for 100 years, and they're like say it's Dorne, and they're holding out for 100 years, and they're like really fighting back, I could see some of the elites going by saying, hey, why are we like losing tens of billions of warriors against a very honorable race? Like, if they could spawn this, Dorne guy over here, I mean, I'm sure they'd call him something different. I think only Perturabo knew his name.
This demon. Yeah,
right.
You're good.
But
this demon.
If they could
honestly, that's what I see out of the Lion. I see the Lion catfishing
the
elites constantly.
Right.
But that's my own personal thing against that.
But again, it's
not to say that I don't see Dorne doing that, but I see Dorne as a wall being pushed up to break against. I see the Lion out ambushing the elites every time, like 80% of the time, or know. But I'm bringing up an old wound. You're bringing up something else. This has been a wonderful conversation, and there will be people who make arguments and argue against us. I also need to put this out there once again by saying we put the word ineffective there in the fact that we do not think that their impact would make that much of a difference to the Human Covenant War.
Right.
Not to say that they are ineffective Primarchs
in
their setting or as individuals to begin with.
Right, or they're bad characters. When I read Flight of the Eisenstein, Mortarion absolutely stole the show from me. And I also have...
Oh, yeah, same. Then again, Nathaniel Garrow...
he's... But, I mean, the way it's like... Mortarion in that book, it's like he's that guy who... He's cool, and he knows it, but he doesn't push it. Like, the way...
Yeah, but it's the only book in which he is that.
Which is so sad, because it's like... It's amazing the way it's like he purposely talks very slow and very quiet in that voice. And then he has the drinking of the poison. It's like all these little things that just make you like think like he's really, really cool. And it's so sad we don't see more of that. I have a pretty soft spot for Lorgar because all he ever wanted was the truth, man. Like that time when he's like burning millions of children, it's like this is all for the truth. It's like and you can't argue with that. It's like I guess the kid's got to die for the truth.
Yeah, you can. Sorry, man. I can argue about not burning children for the truth.
For the truth, man.
No matter how much of a Vulcan simp I am, and that Eldar child. Didn't know any about that, but then again, I haven't been paying attention to that part of the database.
It was a bunch of crazy stuff. But either way, I might cut that. But either way, these guys are all really cool, and man. Now, I think the next part would be to see what combination of Primarchs could actually defeat the Covenant. We get Sangi, Dorne, the Lion, and let's say Peter Turbo, and have them actually.
Not gonna argue there because I'm willing to get into too much of a conversation about Gilman's doll.
All right.
Then again, we also have to worry about what technology they have access to with the UNSC.
Right.
A whole nother conversation.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, yeah. But this was a good
chat. I don't have the alcohol.
Yeah, in a little bit over 2 hours, that's actually pretty good. That's pretty good. All right. Well, I'm going to cap it over there. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Let's see. Shit, I got to get my outro figured out.
You do.
You can dip if you want to, but thank you very much for watching, folks. And remember to hit the big red button to eradicate all the Xenos. And hit the Liberty Belt to replace him with America.
Just as the Founding Fathers intended.
This has been Corporal Hot Pockets and the Boys of Carter's Cult, showing you what the ladies like, one lesson at a time. And remember, Spartans, keep riding forward unto dawn.